Big Dumb Movie is a comedic podcast that often contains obscene language and outlandish commentary. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Big Dumb Movie, where we discuss movies of the big dumb variety. I'm your host, Korey, and I'm joined today with Jonathan.
Hey guys.
And Steve.
Ahoy, ahoy, mateys.
So Jonathan, summer camps, huh?
Summer camps, eh?
You ever been to one or what?
You know, the closest thing I ever went to as a summer camp was a junior lifeguard program where it was really just a day camp. You didn't do any overnight anything. And so we would just go to the beach every day and they would teach you like different lifeguard skills, ocean safety and awareness, you know.
I remember you doing the lifeguard thing a lot. Yeah, you were really into it.
Yeah, I started when I was like 12 and then I became an instructor with them at like 16. And then when I was 18, I was eligible to be hired on as an actual lifeguard. And that was awesome because I was like 18 years old making like $19 an hour lifeguarding, you know, sitting up in a tower all day, saving a bunch of kids. Little dumbass kids getting caught in riptides, stuff like that.
You let any of them drown ever?
No, I wanted to. So, all right. So, Korey, here's a good story I just thought of. So, I was lifeguarding and I was on duty one day. There was decent sized waves out. And you know that where we grew up, a lot of the population was very Hispanic. And these two kids go out on their fucking Kmart boogie boards. Like these things were probably $5 a piece. They're wearing jeans, their full t-shirts, shoes, like all that stuff going out there in the water. And these dumbass little kids are out in the water and they get caught in a current that started taking them towards the pier, like underneath the pier at Wainimi. And at that point, the only way to get out there and rescue them is to run out the pier and then jump off the pier into the water, grab them and swim under the pier with them, trying to not hit them on the muscles and the pilings and all that.
Yeah, there's hazardous shit around the pier.
Yeah, you can get serious
fishing
infections.
lines.
Yep, you can get serious infections from the mussels. Anyway, so these two dumbass kids that are fully soaked in their full clothes and whack-ass boogie boards, and I had to like hook up to them with our little buoy thing and drag them under the pier and then bring them in after that.
Damn.
Like, that was wild.
Jonathan saved some lives.
Yeah, dude.
Do you think they remember that?
I hope to God those kids never came to the beach ever again. Fucking idiots.
Their parents remember the day they failed to successfully drown their fully clothed kids in the ocean.
Right?
But what was beach camp like? Was it fun or what?
Sounds fun.
So it was really cool. We used to have this instructor. You can bleep her name out if you want, but no last names here. Katie. She was the apple of my eye at that time. And
Katie was hot or what?
Oh, she was smoking hot, dude. And she accelerated me through the kickoff of my puberty, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, so every time so Wainimi Beach is very famous for being super cold. Like we have a natural like deep water trench right outside of the beach.
It's abysmally cold.
Dude, it's like 10 degrees colder than all other beaches around.
Yep.
So anyway, so she would come out of the water and wearing her hot little red two-piece. And she must have had like massive nipples, dude, because they were always like just straight at full attention. And like, dude,
Are they like
I don't know.
pepperonis or what?
They what?
They're like pepperonis?
No, they weren't like big and round, man. They were pokey,
Well,
like
Canadian ham,
like
you know.
no, they were like no, like she probably had like the equivalent of like two large Concord grapes under there, like that size is what it seemed like to
golf
me at
tees?
the time. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
The terms men invent for female anatomy.
Like a couple of baby toes like sticking out, you know? Anyways, man, she was the subject of many hours of self-pleasure, that's for sure.
You spanked her when she was in your spank bank?
Oh, yeah, dude.
This is gonna get weird.
At 13
Yeah, it's
years
already getting
old,
strange.
you know what? At 13 years old, you just develop, you know, the wildest imagination. That's for sure.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. My 7th grade teacher was barely out of college for learning how to be a teacher, and she rode horses. She had a very nice figure and used to wear riding pants to school every once in a while, and that was formative.
I'm sure there is nothing left to the imagination with
No.
two-piece lifeguard bathing suits and horse riding pants.
See, I think this is all appropriate for this movie, which
It
is
doesn't seem like it would be, but
which
it
is
is.
a pretty horny movie in and of itself.
It's the horniest Disney film I've ever seen in my life.
I do have one more camp story real quick since we're on it. One of the things I like to do is drive through the canyons, Santa Monica Mountain Range, Mulholland Highway. There's lots of camps out there, youth camps, summer camps, day camps, stuff like that. There's a lot of Jewish youth camps out there, right? And so I had done some workout at a few of them previously. Anyways, I was taking my wife on a drive through Mulholland, and I was explaining what the camps are. She's like, "Oh, that's like there's like a Star of David right there, whatever." And I was like, "Oh yeah, there's a lot of Jewish camps out here." And she's like, totally innocently, I wouldn't think Jewish people would like to go to camps. And I'm like, oh my God, dude. And I fucking lost it, right? I had to pull over and I couldn't believe it. But she totally innocently had no idea what she was talking about. She's like, oh no, I just thought that they were like all nerds and like, not athletic and outdoorsy type people. And I'm like, oh my God, babe, you're just digging yourself into a deeper hole here.
If we have to be subject to stereotypes that dictate you're all supposed to be doctors and accountants aren't the worst ones, but still.
Yeah, right. It wasn't like a youth lawyer camp or anything,
Lawyer camp.
I mean, dude,
sounds like something some kids I knew would have gone to, though.
For those that don't know, Steve is Jewish.
Mostly anyway, yeah.
Mostly. last time I checked.
Right. I am from a mixed family, but still.
Oh man.
Steve, you must have gone to some summer camps being a rich kid, right?
Yeah, I went to day camp that I didn't. Well, I went to sleepaway camps too, but I went to day camp for years when I was younger that I didn't really realize was like a privileged kid camp until I was way older, and then other people started pointing it out to me.
Oh, you went to the Addams Family Values camp?
So that was some of the sleepaway camps I went to were not that dissimilar from that, unfortunately. But so there's a school, it doesn't exist anymore. There was a school in Topanga Canyon called Meadow Oaks. The campus is now owned by Viewpoint. I actually went to school there too. During the summertime, the property got leased out to be used as a summer camp. And this place was crazy. It was way up. I went to two different schools like this. They were way up in Topanga Canyon. Must have been dozens of acres. There were areas where they had classrooms, but Meadow Oaks had a whole Tom Sawyer's Island area with marshes and gold panning and a bridge that spanned an artificial lake. They had horse riding rings and an Olympic-sized swimming pool in one area. And it was, you had to go up and down a portion of it was actually up in Old Topanga Canyon, very near where Jonathan was just talking about. And I got to go to day camp there when I was really young, when I was littler than my parents really wanted to send me away to a sleepaway camp. And it was a ton of fun, but honest to God, I didn't realize until I was probably 14 or 15 years old that it was the kind of camp that you had to sort of be privileged to be at, because you grow up around kids who are from the same background as you and you just figure, oh, this is normal,
We're the owners and directors here at Camp Chippewa, America's foremost facility for privileged young adults.
But then I got sent to sleepaway camps, and the sleepaway camps, I guess, were where the crazier stuff happened. But it was things like I walked in on two of the counselors humping in one of the cabins. We were all supposed to be at a dance for the camp kids. And they thought, and I had to run back to the cabin for something. I'd left something in a bag that I wanted to show or share with one of the other kids, and the two of them were in there not expecting anyone to come back. And that was cool. I got to see a pretty attractive female counselor half naked.
Yeah.
Yahtzee.
Yahtzee, right?
A couple of walking stereotypes, those two.
Right? Yeah, it very much is one of those like Crystal Lake type situations,
right.
Where if there'd been a guy in a mask around, that would have been the first cabin he'd found.
One of them was Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, it turns out I just dreamt about being in Flashdance or something. My dad worked on Flashdance, and he used to come home every night and tell my mother it was the stupidest thing he'd ever seen. He was sure it was going to flop, and then it turned into a huge success.
The lead in that is in the new Book of Boba Fett series. Did you know that? She's the Twi'lek.
Really?
Yeah. So when
Jennifer Grey, I think.
When it's done and you watch it, you'll see her. She's pretty prominent so far.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm only waiting for the first season to run out so I can just binge my way through it. But man,
when I was a kid, I went to this camp, and I had a friend. He was like the smart, nerdy kid. He's called Sponge. And then I had this other friend that was kind of like a big, heavy kid called Donkey Lips. It was called Camp Onawana.
Did you ever get awful waffled there?
I did, actually,
Oh,
yes.
God.
I used to have these nightmares about this local legend around the camp. He was like a creepy figure that had died there. He was the old janitor. He was...
Did that camp make you want to fart?
It did make me want to fart.
It's I hope we never part. Now get it right or pay the price.
Did you guys ever watch Hey Dude on Nickelodeon?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then, what's Ben Stiller's wife's name? She was on it. She was in Zoolander with him, too. I don't mean it to be a jerk. I can't remember her name now.
The
But,
Jan Brady.
yeah. And one of our trips, we used to go to Arizona. It's not worth explaining why, but one of our trips to Arizona, we stayed a night they actually had a hotel that was on that property. They filmed the show on a piece of property. It was really a hotel most of the time. My younger brother had a lot of difficulty processing that it wasn't actually the camp from the show. My parents had to explain to him 2 or 3 times that they just filmed the show there.
Wasn't her name Bud on the show or something
I think
like
her
that?
name was Melody on the show.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Something like
You're
that.
thinking of Budnick from my Camp Anawana story.
Yeah, you look like a bitch, too.
I was about to... I was about to get to Zeke the plumber, but I think that part goes without saying.
Oh,
You know what,
yeah.
dude? Budnick's always good in my book, man, because he, in Terminator 2, he
Yes.
bailed his homie out, man.
He
at
ain't
the
no
arcade.
fucking snitch ass bitch, you know? Nah, I don't know him. Yo, there's this cop here scoping for you.
And yet when John goes to warn somebody at the payphone, he decides to call the foster parents he hates instead of the friend that bailed him out. You know, but whatever.
So let's review Terminator 2 again.
I just rewatched it. It's fine with me.
I'd love to get back into that one. I wasn't here for the first one.
We can do Terminator 3. Come on.
Yeah, actually, it's not a bad one.
We got to
do.
keep going through the Terminator movies, man.
You know what? Of all the sequels, that is the one I have the most. Well, aside from 2, that's the one I have the most to say about and the least difficult time sitting through, even though it's not very good.
Do you like the part when he's like, talk to the hand?
Yeah, that's definitely not one of the things that makes that movie bad.
Christine Taylor.
There you go. Thank
Yeah.
you, Christine
And
Taylor.
She was Melody, and I was thinking of Brad, not Bud. There's a girl named Brad. Yeah,
the brunette. She was pretty too.
Yeah, Kelly Brown.
There you go. I liked both of them as a kid.
But yeah, Christine Taylor, man, whoa, she's a smoke show.
Oof,
Still,
absolutely.
Man. Oh, in Dodgeball.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about aging well. God damn.
Right? I'm not a lesbian. I'm bisexual.
I hate that fucking line.
Me too.
I'm sorry. It's such
So
a,
what? It was
such
still
a jerk
hot.
off line. It's like, okay.
Oh,
Man.
I like the original ending of Dodgeball. So I had the DVD, and like the original ending. You remember when Ben Stiller wins, but it's actually a foul? He was over the line.
Oh,
so they
yeah.
have to go into sudden death. The end of the movie, like the alternate ending, is that Ben Stiller throws the ball, wins, and then he picks up the trophy and holds it, and the movie ends. That is so fucking funny. Like the reverse Karate Kid, you know? Like,
right?
What a shitty ending.
dude, that's funny.
No,
though.
I like the meltdown where like in the credits where he's like huge and grotesque and like eating all the ice cream and stuff
That
like
is
that.
worth it. You're right. That's good.
Yeah.
Did you ever see The Descent? So when the group of women are trapped in that cave. And they're
Yeah. First half, great. Second half, not into it.
Yeah, not a very good movie, but I think I remember reading that maybe I'm confusing. If I remember the movie correctly, and I've only seen it once, at the end, one of them gets out, and they leave it kind of ambiguous as to whether or not she really gets away. But I think the original ending for that, she was going to get all the way out and start celebrating, and then get eaten by something.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a very old school style of horror
Exactly,
movie.
Twilight
ending.
Zone trope, you know.
Yeah, almost like Texas Chainsaw. But I think one woman does get away in that. But maybe more like Hills Have Eyes or
Oh yeah.
what's that Rob Zombie movie?
House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, don't want to get too far off track. So, this movie, Camp Nowhere, 1994. It was requested by a listener. Jason Warren Smith on Instagram suggested that we do a podcast on this movie. So I want to say a quick shout out to Jason.
What's up, Jason?
Thank you for suggesting it. You're cool. We like you. Anything to say, Jonathan?
Whether we like him or not is pretty subjective.
Okay.
Jonathan's not on board.
Jonathan's on the fence. You got to win him over.
We're gonna need to ask this guy a few questions.
Yeah, we need to get
You
to
know
know
what?
you a little bit.
Hey, Jason, why don't you go ahead and type up your review of this movie and put it on the comments of YouTube,
Yes.
please?
I want to know what Jason thinks about Blade Runner.
Okay.
I mean, Captain Bryant's in this movie, so
All right. So the point I'm driving at here is August in 1994. Now, we've done a lot of movies from 1994 and 1995.
That was a
mostly
good year.
95. 95 is like the year of big dumb movies.
Yeah.
But this one, we're going to play a little game. So I'm taking it back to what was in theaters at the same time as Camp Nowhere. But this is the trivia edition.
Okay.
So you guys can just say the answer. We'll see who knows these the most. So I'll give you guys some clues about movies that were potentially in theaters at or around the same time as Camp Nowhere. All right, so the first one up, I'm going to give you clues. Jim Carrey.
That had to have been either The Mask or Ace Ventura.
It is The Mask. That's
Yeah.
one for Steve. Next one. Elijah Wood.
Oh, I think I know, but do you want to give it a try? A radio flyer?
Nope. I'll give you next clue. Worst movie of all time.
Worst movie of all. But he wasn't in Pluto Nash. Boy, even I'm not sure I can come up with that one.
Travels around the country.
North.
Ooh, you were good.
Boy, I forgot. You know, I don't actually hate that movie that much, but that's a different discussion.
I hate it, but I don't hate it that much.
Right?
That movie is a piece of shit.
It's not good, I'll give you that.
All right, this one is going to be a giveaway. A Baby.
A Baby's Day Out?
Yep.
There you go.
The next clue was going to be a favorite of Indians. Not Native Americans, but of people in India. This movie is extremely popular
Is it
in
really?
India. Hugely. It's one of the most popular movies ever in India.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's
So
also Vern Troyer's professional debut in a film.
Good point. It is.
So I actually have evidence to back that up. At my job, I have two coworkers that are from different regions of India.
Right.
And they both say that that's one of their favorite movies of all time.
Really?
They're right in our age group, too. They're both like 32-ish, 30, 32. And they say that's
Wow.
one of their favorite movies of all time.
But it's not just anecdotally true. Like, I've looked this up online, and Roger Ebert has talked about, like, this is the biggest movie in India. It was at the time.
Of all the films from America to permeate Indian culture, I wonder, legitimately, sincerely, I wonder why that one.
What did they say, Jonathan? Why did they say they like it?
The comedy.
What
And
comedy?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. No fucking sense of humor in that country.
A
I
gorilla
guess. I don't
suit is
know.
funny? Lighting a man's dick on
right?
fire?
They've got the most active movie industry in the world. They produce way more films than we do.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But we put out the quality like Baby's Day Out.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where you really get your money's worth is with films like Baby's Day Out.
Joe Montana. All right, I'm going to move on. Next one. Tom Hanks.
Oh,
Forrest Gump.
Nailed it. That's
Okay.
2-2.
I was going to say Sleepless in Seattle. So
That was, I think, like 96, maybe.
was it? All right.
This one you guys are going to both get quickly, so we'll see. Crimson Jihad.
Oh, God.
Team
damn it.
America?
No, it was.
that's Muhammad
It's the name
Jihad.
of the terrorist group in the movie, and now I can't think of the name of the movie.
Street Fighter?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, I don't know.
James Cameron.
That wasn't.
True Lies?
Yeah, there you
Boom.
go.
Jonathan is in the lead.
We should review that one, by the way.
Yes. As soon as it's
I-
available to stream somewhere, we will do that.
I fucking love that movie.
Next one is Christopher Lloyd and Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Christopher Lloyd and Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Dennis the Menace?
Nope.
Shit.
Jonathan was involved in the Big Dumb Movie podcast on this movie, but Steve wasn't there.
What was he in with Christopher Lloyd?
Tony Danza.
There's a movie with Tony Danza in it. There's a good chance even I've never seen it.
I was on the pod reviewing this?
Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd and Joseph Gordon.
I need another clue.
Roger.
Oh, wait, no.
Oh, Angels in the Outfield.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. You know what's funny is I was thinking about that movie anyway because I'm pretty sure, what's his name? Joseph Lebrecht, Patrick Lebrecht, the kid who plays the clerk in the grocery store in this movie was in that.
Okay.
Yeah. Damn it, I can't believe I didn't get that.
Next one. SNL movie.
It's Pat?
Boom.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Of course. Of course, Korey brought up It's Pat.
Next one up. superhero movie not based on a comic book. Original concept superhero movie.
Was it Blank Man?
Boom.
Yeah. I actually liked that movie.
Me too.
Yeah.
I guess you could say it's loosely based on Batman.
Yeah. You know, for 94, especially I was 11, I thought it worked. It wasn't bad.
Look at you, Steve, running away with the lead.
Well, I couldn't think of True Lies, and you got it. So there you go.
Actually, it's all tied up 4-4.
Oh, there you go.
Next one. Hilary Swank.
Boys
Clueless?
Don't Cry.
Clueless?
Neither
she's
of
not.
those. Pat Morita.
Though The Next Karate Kid. I forgot that was 94.
There we go, Steve. You're 1 point ahead. Couple
my
more
God.
left. Pauly Shore.
Biodome?
Nope.
In the Army Now.
Doom. You got it. Just right.
See what I get for being polite with mic time over here?
Right? I'm sorry. You can trade. I'll get you the next one first.
No, that's okay.
This one, I know who's gonna get this one. Brendan Fraser and Adam Sandler.
Oh, come
Airheads.
on. Yeah. I knew. Thank you. I didn't want to take that one.
I love that movie.
Yeah, that's a
Such a
great
guilty
movie.
pleasure.
It is. And Brendan Fraser's such a mess now. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I feel bad for that guy.
Why?
He had a horrible divorce. His wife really bilked him out of a lot of money, and it turned into a mess. And now he's, I mean, I'm not really one to talk with the belly I've got, but he's like really overweight now.
Dude, he's like 300 plus.
Yeah.
For sure. When he was yoked in George of the Jungle.
Look, I don't want to fat shame the man because honestly,
No, I don't want to either.
he's a legend.
He is. And he's supposed to be such a nice fucking guy. That's part of why I feel bad. He really got racked in that divorce. And it really was not, from what I've heard, it was the wife that really, anyway.
Quick side note: I've been watching Doom Patrol on HBO Max. You know, the DC,
Yeah.
and he is the highlight of that show by far. He does
yeah.
voice acting mostly. He
Right.
does do physical appearances as well, but his voice acting is phenomenal.
Yeah, he's a good actor, absolutely. And he was in so many fun movies.
Can we get George of the Jungle on the list?
Definitely.
Oh,
I fucking love that movie. man.
Steve will not appear, but yes, you can, me, you, and Josh. All right, last one up. Spanky.
Little Rascals.
Yeah.
All right, you guys are dead even, so we're gonna end this one on a tie because I didn't write down any more. 6-6, you guys killed it. You guys are good at this shit.
I'm all right.
Great job, Steve.
Thank you. You too.
So, Steve, how the hell was this movie made?
I would love to tell you if I knew. I really don't know.
You weren't on the production team,
No, I wasn't. This one they didn't invite me to at 11. I just wasn't producing all that many movies.
and here I thought you were a prodigy.
Right? Well, I wouldn't take the prodigy status away from me. I just wasn't involved with this one. I've never had the opportunity, or really, if I'm being honest, a tremendous amount of inclination to learn much detail about the background of this film. And when I went looking online, it turns out there's virtually none at all. I mean, even the IMDb trivia section had nothing in it. Not that that trivia section is particularly reliable, because it kind of isn't. But I did discover there's a Blu-ray release with a commentary, so anyone who's really interested might be able to get a hold of the Blu-ray, but I don't know what the content of that commentary is. What I can tell you is that it was directed by a guy named Jonathan Prince. This is the only film that Prince ever directed, but he has done a tremendous amount of TV. He works as a writer, producer, and director in TV. It was written by a couple of guys named Andrew Kurtzman and Elliot Wald, who I think met each other writing for SNL in the early 80s, from what I can gather. The two of them really have mostly only written TV content themselves. The only other film credit to their respective names is a 1996 Tom Arnold feature called Down Periscope, which is not a great thing to have on your resume. Other than that, not a whole lot, really nothing I know about the production or the director, producer / I can tell you that our main character, Mud, was played by Jonathan Jackson. This was his debut role. It was the first film he'd ever been in. Although he's worked really consistently since then. He's been on dozens of episodes of General Hospital and a show called Nashville. Much closer to You're in My Heart, I know he actually played Kyle Reese on a few episodes of the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Ooh.
Yeah.
He was in Riding the Bullet, that Stephen King adaptation.
Oh, yeah. He was also in a movie that was adapted from a book called Tuck Everlasting about an immortal kid. And I don't remember very much about it, but I do remember that the movie was sort of controversial because it dealt with like teenage sex or death or something like this. It was one of those books that like 13 and 14-year-olds were reading a lot of, and a lot of parents didn't want them to be. I don't know.
Controversial maybe in the same way this movie is?
Yeah, I guess maybe that's what it is. But I mean, there's also the Zach character who we'll talk about. He's the kind of heartthrobby one in that group. Was played by an actor named Andrew Keegan. Keegan's done a pretty lot of work, but he got this part, a lot. He was constantly cast over a period of like 10 years during the 90s as the sort of handsome, self-absorbed kind of idiot in some cases. He also played Bianca's love interest in 10 Things I Hate About You, which is almost the exact same part, but just a few years later.
Right.
I did not catch her in the movie. I wasn't looking very closely, but I did discover this is apparently the first film Jessica Alba was ever in.
I saw her.
Okay, yeah, I didn't notice her, but I guess I did read what happened. Apparently is they'd cast her to be a background extra and some other girl dropped out, so she got a more front-facing part. She also went on to, the same year I didn't realize, was in an episode of The Secret World of Allison Mack. And 20 years later, in 2014, her and Christopher Lloyd both reappeared in one of the Sin City movies. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have a lot of background. I think a couple honorable mentions here real quick. M. Emmett Walsh plays the debt collector who spends his film looking for Lloyd's character, who we'll talk about. Walsh had a massive movie career. He's probably best known, among other things, for having played Captain Bryant in Blade Runner and in being like probably 4 dozen other movies. There's also a brief appearance from Burgess Meredith, who people might remember either as the Joker from the old Batman TV show or... no, that was Cesar Romero. He was Penguin. He was Penguin. And
more importantly, Rocky, though, right?
Yeah, Mickey from the Rocky movies. And then Tom Wilson, who was Biff in the BTTF movies, Back to the Future movies, has a part in the film. So that's him and Lloyd working together again, which is kind of fun. But yeah, not a whole lot else production-wise for this movie. A few little other trivia items I'll probably pepper in as we go along.
Well, let's get into the movie itself. Jonathan, this movie opens up with a camp introduction VHS tape that is being actually narrated by a person, not the tape itself. Seems kind of strange, but what do you think of the opening?
It couldn't be any more 90s at all. Like, you have this salesman doing a video presentation before PowerPoint was a thing, right? Like, why didn't this fucking computer nerd invent PowerPoint back then, you know? Fuck, man. You got a sick-ass
Fake
computer
nerd.
camp. Yeah, seriously, fake nerds. But it couldn't be any more 90s. It's like you have that old school television still, a big tube TV, I guess, is that what they call it? VHS player. They're sitting around talking about going to Camp Micro Chippewa or
Micro Chippewa.
Yeah.
So Camp Chippewa was the camp in the Addams Family Values.
Yes.
This camp is Micro Chippewa.
And later on, when they make up the fake computer camp for Mud, the name they use is I think... Oh, I wrote it.
Binary
Pines, which is a flash on Twin Pines Mall from Back to the Future.
Or Lone Pine, depending on the timeline.
Right? Yes, exactly.
Shoot me.
This is where we meet Morris, aka Mud, which are two other awful 90s names, just like Roger.
Roger and Mud. They probably hang out after school, you know?
Right? You know, we've got this, like, I'm trying to paint a picture here, and everybody's got long hair as far as the kids go anyways, and they're wearing flannels and leather jackets and baggy pants. I mean, this was a trend that was definitely dear to my heart. I grew up in that. I mean, we all did.
Yeah.
Yeah, the grunge era, man.
Yeah, it was like you wanted to be grungy but still clean.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, Korey was definitely grunge for sure when we were that age, but
Fuck yeah.
yeah,
Right.
he was as grunge as it got.
Mud's got some unique hair, you know?
I like his hair.
He's got the, it's kind of like, it's not a mullet. It's medium in the front and long in the back. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I knew a few kids that time that were cutting their hair. It was a popular hairstyle if you could pull it off back then, at least amongst that age group. Those kids would have been, I think, maybe 2 years older than I was at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew Keegan, you talked about him earlier.
Yeah.
He plays Zach, who is like you said, the kind of like the bully tough guy kid. I mostly know him not from acting roles so much, but more from just being on Teen Girl magazine.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he was one of those faces along with like Jonathan Taylor Thomas and a young Leo DiCaprio. This is like the last breadth of magazines like Tiger Beat or whatever it was called, and Teen But there were a bunch that had started in the early 80s and were pretty much gone by the late 90s that were really just girl magazines for teen heartthrob actors.
Yeah.
You know? Like, yeah, they always had their face on the cover with the hand under their chin and looking super demure, you know.
I remember all the girls at school having those magazines, and they would like trade around. And,
exactly.
And, oh, you got the new one. Oh, let me have that one then. And,
Right.
yeah.
You know, I remember a counselor of mine in high school had pages from an issue from like 1985 on the wall in her office, and I learned at some point it was because her daughter, who was several years older than me, had been interviewed for an issue of the magazine about why she thought some hair rocker was cute. You know.
So there's kind of a diverse group of friends in this movie, and I think they're in middle school, if the yearbook cover is to be believed.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to be 14-ish, which would be, middle school or like either the last year. Yeah, eighth grade, right before high school. 13, 14, 12 to 14, somewhere in that range.
Varying ages between some of them, yes.
Yeah, I think some are a little younger than others. But yeah, it's a really diverse group. And you know, that's such a subject of conversation today. It should be. But like, you know, I'm looking back, it's like this is a pretty well-represented swath of people here.
It was kind of strange because Trish was like, she came from such a strong, like wealthy background that like those parents that were not present in her life except for what their aspirations were for her. Right. Like, and so they just really weren't involved. Her dad was not involved. He thought that she was going to fucking horse riding camp or something. And then you've got Zach, who basically has like no parent mention at all in the movie.
Right.
And Mud, who his parents just want him to go to computer camp. Like, it's just such a like weird, diverse mixture. But the only explanation that I could come up with was that they grew up like in the same neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe they were all neighbors and they grew up together, and that explained the age differential. But then again, you have Trish, who is probably living up on the hill a little higher than the other ones were, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so it kind of, I don't know, just kind of threw it off.
The high school that was nearest to me for a long time growing up when I was a kid pulled from an odd collection of neighborhoods, and it you ended up with a lot of different slices because of that, because some of the kids came from neighborhoods where the homes were at least relatively very expensive, but there were also a lot of kids who came from definitely lower income homes in other neighboring areas. And so it was an interesting swath to see. And I don't mean that as a knock to anyone. It's just, I think you do end up in some of those environments where the demographics are right and the school is in just the right place where you get kids who maybe are from somewhat different backgrounds all collecting together.
I could definitely relate to Mud as a kid.
Yeah.
Because he is involved in many groups, like in different, you know, types of kids. Like he's actually friends with more than one type of kid, you know?
Yeah.
But also he's somewhat of an outcast in each group he's in because of that. And that was something I could relate to in my own life for sure.
I think so as well. I never felt like I was a full member of almost any of those groups. I always felt like I could kind of float around the fringes of 2 or 3 of them.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Always on the outskirts. But Christopher Lloyd, the legendary
God, he's
Christopher
so
Lloyd,
good.
He's also in this movie. Steve, what's he doing? A fish and cheese presentation?
Yeah, they find him. These kids they've gotten out of school. They're discussing their parents' various camp plans for them, none of which of them are happy about this. And they end up at the mall together, which is perfect. I mean, the mall rat scene was at its absolute peak in '94, and I certainly spent a lot of time there. And I have to say, before we get to the larger point of the scene, that part, just for that specific nostalgia, might be my favorite part of the whole film. Like 94 mall and the people milling around, and it's just it's so much like, yes, I remember any kid who lived near a mall in '94, like that's a relatable scene. And there's something kind of comfy and nostalgic and heartwarming about remembering that. But yeah, they're in the mall together and they discover, no, they weren't in the mall together. Morris Mudd is in the mall with his dad. And sorry about that. But yeah, he's in the mall and he sees a man giving a very charismatic presentation at a kiosk about canned Cheese Whiz or whatever it was. And Morris finds the guy fascinating and I guess kind of recognizes him because later on, when he's talking to the other kids about their camp plans, he pulls out a yearbook and points out that the guy he'd seen at the mall selling cheese had previously been a drama teacher at the school. And this is one of my favorite moments in the whole movie also because they let you in on this knowledge that Dennis Wilker is his name, the drama teacher, had been let go from the school because he tried to stage a middle school musical version of The Silence of the Lambs. Which I think is really, really funny. And definitely something that a Christopher Lloyd type drama teacher probably would have done.
Damn, fucking PC is taking over. You know, back in my day, they would have allowed Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, but absolutely. I just found it amusing that like the teacher would try to turn Silence of the Lambs into a middle school musical. Sounds really funny to me.
He's a visionary. That's a great idea. I'm for it. I'd be on that PTA advocating.
Absolutely. But
You'd be advocating. I'd be contributing.
Yeah, Jonathan would be eating faces.
Oh, absolutely. That's Lecter right there.
I'd be auditioning, motherfucker.
Right? But that becomes the catalyst for the rest of it because they realize that Wilker is a dramatic person prone to weird behavior and might be somebody they can use to their own ends.
At least blackmail.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Yeah, so each kid is going to go to a camp they don't want to go to, right? So Mudd's going to go to nerd computer camp.
Right.
Sounds kind of cool to me, but whatever.
It actually did sound kind of cool, yeah.
Hackers.
The bully kid, Zach, is going to go to military camp because he's a fuck up. Prissy rich girl is going to go to drama camp because whatever, stereotypes.
Well, and I like that development with her because even she doesn't really want to go.
Right.
She tells the other girl in their group that like it's just this competitive group of prisses all bragging about which parts they got, and even she doesn't really want to go there. Like, yeah,
for sure. And then the last one was diet camp. I guess they're gonna send her to heavyweights camp.
I don't want this to come off being weird, but I want to mention that because even as an 11-year-old, when I saw this film, it really bothered the hell out of me. The girl they cast to play that part is not chubby.
Thank you.
I don't understand it. The girl they cast to play that part is slim. She doesn't need to go to a diet camp. She isn't even an ounce overweight based looking. And then later in the movie, when her mother shows up, she's like, "You look so skinny." She hasn't lost any weight at all.
No, she just changed her outfit.
Exactly. Like I don't understand why they would write that character in that way and then not cast a girl who was actually, and I don't mean it in a mean way, I really don't, but then cast a girl who's actually a little bit chubby so that the story is believable. The girl they cast wasn't overweight.
No, she just wears a lot of layers.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, Jonathan, their plan, okay? Of course, it's a 90s kids movie. They come up with a plan. There's like a bingo fucking moment where they're like, you know what? Let's take the money that we were going to use for camp, rather that our parents were going to use for camp, and let's start our own camp. Kid-run camp. No rules, motherfucker.
Sure, he left town.
Okay, well, first of all, I've got major plot holes with this. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I guess let me explain the idea behind this first. So the kids decide that they are going to pitch to their parents with the help of Dennis acting as a representative from each of the respective camps that they want to go to, or that their parents want them to go to, and going to get them to go to a different camp than they normally do. But what I have a problem with is how the hell did all of these kids get their parents to hand over cash and checks and whatever?
Cash, actually.
Like
just
most
cash.
of the time. Yeah, most of them. I'm going to guess most of it was cash. Like people just didn't have $3,000, $5,000 for summer camp just sitting around. Like that just seems so odd.
Well, I mean, like, I know that it cost my parents to send my brother and I to these sleepaway camps, but it never, if somebody had shown up at the house and told my father that they wanted the $3,000 per kid in cash presented directly to them, that would have been the moment that camp was no longer an option. That's a obvious con.
In a briefcase, please.
In a briefcase, yeah. Can I please? I'm going to show up personally and get $3,000 from you in cash. You don't send a check addressed to the camp. You don't get to meet an administrator or someone who handles the money. It's just me. I'm going to take cash from you in a briefcase. By the way, you've never seen the camp property or met anyone else who works there. I don't have any videos or pictures or brochures or pamphlets. I just have, here's me. An adult you've never met before has shown up and told you they want $3,000 to take your kid away for weeks. And you're just like, here's money.
Right. If this movie was made today, it would be like they conned their parents into paying them $3,000 to take their kids away to a sex trafficking ring or something for the summer. Like,
right?
It's unbelievable. This concept of how
Allison
they got
Mack
this to
is
happen.
in this movie.
Dude.
So maybe.
I was going to wait till the end to mention that, but her and Keegan, Zach, both ended up in weird religious cults. His wasn't as bad as hers, but
He started one.
He started one, yeah, and then they got busted for selling kombucha. But
No way.
I swear to God,
I didn't know there was controversy in his. I thought his was just like spiritual meditation.
Yeah, I mean, look, in fairness to Keegan, his really was very benign. It was misguided and a little weird, but it was basically just new age stuff. There was nothing malicious about it, but they were brewing and selling kombucha, and technically you have to have a food and beverage license to do it. So the organization got in trouble. But that is far and away from what Mack's group was involved in.
Jonathan, do you know about Allison Mack?
I literally just heard about that like the other day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, so she's one of the little girls in the movie, has a few lines, not a major player, a minor player.
I had to figure out who she was in the movie. It took me a little while to figure out it was that girl. Yeah.
She was also in Smallville, so she was most known for that. Like, that was her big role. She joined a religious cult. They weren't called a cult at the time, of course. None of them are.
No, they never call themselves a cult.
Right. But it's called Nixium.
Yeah.
Now, there's a great, 11-part documentary or something like that on HBO about Nixium. Basically, it's a rip-off Scientology.
Yeah.
So they take a lot of stuff that Scientology does, and they kind of rename it and revamp it. They call it like processing, I think. But what they eventually led to is basically like trafficking women to the leader. Basically making them kind of like sex slaves in a way.
Allison Mack apparently came up with the idea of branding these women. And the other people just were like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's brand them all like they're cattle. And the women let it be done to them.
Right.
How brainwashed did
they were very brainwashed. They were convinced that it was empowering and all this stuff. They go deep, deep into it in these documentaries. But
I mean, even from a man's perspective, letting a guy brand you as his personal sex slave is probably not empowering.
Well, no, it's not. Ultimately, they were mistaken, as it turns out.
Yeah, they were mistaken.
And there was also like some part of where they made you divulge some sort of like secret information about yourself to hold that against you too, right?
Yes.
Like to help
which is a
so you
Scientology
blackmailed yourself against yourself.
So the idea is you have to confess things to them. They record that information, and then it's always kind of held over your head. So like, there's a concern that if I leave, this information will be revealed.
Like they're going to tell everyone John Travolta is actually gay.
Oh, you're one of the people that thinks he's gay?
No, I don't actually, but that's the rumor. I mean, you're probably more aware than I am. There's sort of common knowledge, at least at one level, that Scientology does that with at least some of its members. And there's an extension of that rumor that is probably not true, that one of the pieces of information they have is that Travolta is actually gay.
I never bought the Travolta gay thing.
I don't think I buy it either. The same rumor with Tom Cruise. But I'm like,
wasn't one of them like busted or supposedly busted in the tabloids for like asking massage therapists to jerk him off or something?
I think that was Travolta.
Yeah, and I had no idea if it was true. I just know they were claiming it.
It was like tabloid shit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but it's aside from the fact that neither of them, well, I don't want to phrase it that way, but aside from the fact that I don't believe that that's true, why would either of them hide it? It's not like the entertainment industry is historically unfriendly to gay people. Well, that's not entirely true. It kind of was at one point, but not now. Being gay in Hollywood now is not going to destroy your career.
Well, now that the Weinsteins are taken out, so they're probably okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't want to go too much into cults. We can maybe later, but we'll see. Okay, so they're going to form their own camp. Now, a lot of other kids get involved outside of our main group of friends because Someone hears about it. He tells a friend. They tell a friend. At the end of it, there's like, what, 30 kids involved in this scheme, Steve?
Yeah, it's a pretty big group. I mean, it's got to be at least 30 of them. Some points during the real wild camp scenes, it looks like it may even be 50, 60, 70 of them. Because Walter finds out somehow, I can't remember how, but Walter finds out that Mud and his friends are doing this, and then he tells the redhead that he's got a crush on because she had previously told him some probably bullshit story about skinny dipping at summer camp, and he's convinced that if he can get her to a camp with him, that the two of them will get the skinny dip together. And apparently her character is a bit of a gossip, and then she goes and tells like 20 other kids.
Okay, so should we get this out of the way, the whole like horniness aspect of Walter? I mean,
we may as well, yeah.
This kid is the horniest kid in cinema history.
Yeah, especially in a Disney film. I cannot think of another Disney movie from any time at any place where there was a kid trying to get laid that hard.
Any swimming?
Well, they did slap the Hollywood Pictures title on this. So
That's true.
It doesn't open with the Disney, like Heavyweights does.
You
like
are
the
right.
Disney logo.
I hadn't thought about that.
It gives
That's
us
true.
Hollywood Pictures. So they probably, you know.
Yeah, and that's what Hollywood Pictures and Buena Vista were for, really, is so they could lay out stuff they didn't want to produce with Disney's name on it.
But every time we see this kid, it's
Yeah.
him trying to see the redhead girl naked.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and don't get me wrong, at 13, 14, I would have taken any opportunity I could have gotten, but I definitely wasn't that brazen about it.
Jesus, this
Like-
kid, man.
Right?
I mean, there was a lot of talk about a little bit of horniness throughout the movie anyways, because
Yeah.
our character Dennis, he explains to Mud that at some point he'll understand why he was a lying sack of shit to the doctor and wanted to bring her over to
One
bang
day
her.
you'll
you know?
understand why I gotta lie to women.
Right.
Right. It is true. But I mean, apparently these kids already understand. It doesn't seem like they're behind at that rate.
I mean, speaking of the horniness, when they do get the camp, which they like rent out from some old dude that's oblivious, it's Burgess Meredith.
And Dennis, so Christopher Lloyd's character, who in the film is actually named Dennis, tells the Burgess Meredith character that his name is Mr. Vandersnatch. Which I think is great.
Isn't the old man also the dad from Grumpy Old Man? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. He dies out on the lake.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. That's one of my favorite parts of his. It's so funny with Jack Lemmon's already like in his 70s and Burgess Meredith.
Yeah. Yeah, I fucking love that movie.
It's great.
But they do get this camp, and it's just like immediate 90s kid chaos. But one of the things I was going to allude to earlier is like one of the kids' things, like he just has a stack of porn.
Yeah,
Right.
he's just got a bunch of Playboys
They can just like
I never
totally
saw
let
that.
loose. Oh, yeah.
in
All right.
like a chest or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got like a box. Some kids are jumping on mattresses off the roof. They're doing kids. What are they doing, Steve?
Burgess Meredith's character tells them that at one point in the 60s, this place had been used as like a commune for hippies who basically just hung out and did drugs and had sex. And the kids sort of rekindle that spirit. They find...
Start doing drugs and having sex.
right, pretty damn close to it.
The kids' version. They're eating a lot
Right.
of junk food.
Yes, exactly. You know, and they find a bed sheet or something, big piece of fabric that's had the word nowhere spray painted on it with a peace symbol for the O. So they hang that as their flag, and that's when it officially becomes Camp Nowhere. And they paint up the buildings and start moving things around to their own pleasure, and they really make their own of the camp, which just then gets escalated again once they've all got their hands on money to spend.
Jonathan, what do you think of money, Mud?
Okay, so this was such a like odd, weird scene to me where you've got this 14-year-old kid, Mud, assuming he's 14, has like $30,000 in his pocket in cash, and like they're in the dark walking through the woods. Like that shit should have been locked up somewhere. Like I understand as a kid, like you don't want something to disappear, so you just keep it on yourself. But like at that age, if I had any money like that too, I'd be like, no. I'm out doing shit. I'm putting this away and I'm hiding it, right? And so it was just so weird that like they find this wrecked car in the trees or whatever, and Zach seems to think that he can just fix it up and make it a new car, and then all the kids start chanting like money, mud, money, mud, and they want to take all this money to fix this fucking car that none of these kids could do anything with anyway.
And they want to splurge with it.
Yes. But at one point earlier in the film, when Mud is arguing with his father about having to go to computer camp, Mud's father responds by saying, "Don't you think there are other things I'd rather spend $3,000 on?" So I didn't get an exact count, and maybe there are slightly fewer kids, but it looked to me, I would guess that there were at least 30 kids in that group. So if we assume the number 30 is safe, and if we assume that their parents all pitched in $3,000 for them to be there, that's $90,000. Mud is carrying around $90,000 in cash in 1994 money.
Don't forget the $1,000 that he had to pay to Dennis.
Right? Oh, yeah. So $89,000.
Camp cost. Let's estimate that like what for the summer to rent out the camp. That old fuck probably would have rented it out for probably like a few 24 packs of Pabst Blue Ribbon. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like he's just sitting there drinking anyways, and he was running down to Florida. But I mean, okay, so let's say in 94 money, $2,000 to rent out that piece of shit camp. Yeah, let's say he used another $3,000 for their bus that they bought. I mean, okay, so we're at $5,000 total. So you still got $85,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
unreal. For
$85,000 in 1994, you easily could have bought a house or a condominium somewhere.
Yes,
you could have bought a brand new Porsche for $84,000 in '94. Nuts. That is a nuts amount of money for 11, 12, 13-year-olds to have in 1990. It's a nuts amount of money for a 12-year-old to have now, but especially in 1994. Like, oh my God.
So these kids go crazy with the money. Of course, it becomes blank check, but with a bunch of kids.
Dude, and at least this time they're operating with a more reasonable amount of money, quote unquote, because blank check, the kid gets $1 million check and then proceeds to spend what must have been $5 million buying things. There's no way $1 million would have gone that far.
Over the course of 48 hours.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway.
I wanted to know, so they had all these delivery trucks, right? Super soakers and Nerf guns and this and that, whatever. But did anybody catch the Snap-on tool truck?
Yes.
Like, I have no idea why there would be a Snap-on tool truck there. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. They sell like some of the most expensive, like elite costing tools of all time. Right. Like, people put on layaway one like socket wrench because the shits are so expensive. So I have no idea why they would even be relevant to being in that movie except for like, you know, marketing. No.
Yeah, the chainsaw as well.
The chainsaw had nothing to do with Snap-on tools. Nothing at all. But chainsaw, speaking of that, like, why did it seem like every 90s kids movie needed to have a chainsaw? Like, was there some sort of like technological advance for the chainsaw in the early 90s that they needed to be featured all the time?
And why was it always necessary for the person holding it to turn it on before exclaiming that they were holding it? The guy powers it up and starts blaring it and goes, "Who ordered the chainsaw?" Like, yo, you're the delivery dude. Don't start it up.
Right.
Also, why does it have gas in it?
Like, seriously.
Jonathan, we were obsessed with chainsaws. Do you remember in the 90s? Me and you would always talk about chainsaws.
Yeah.
Dude, I worked a chainsaw into about every short story I wrote. Do you remember I used to write all the short stories?
Yeah, yep, for sure.
There was always a chainsaw involved.
Always. But like, I mean, it was just like such a weapon of mass destruction in that small circle at that time. I don't know. It's just like, there's got to be some sort of like representation of power and noise and destruction or something that associates it to kids at that
I think
age.
Beavis and Butthead might have make the chainsaw thing as popular as it was.
That probably helped.
Yeah. They did talk about watching Beavis and Butthead in the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Name dropped.
I'll do it again. I'll watch that movie anytime. I love Beavis and Butthead.
I think when Mud tells Christopher Lloyd, he's like, "Oh, we're going to go watch Beavis and Butthead. You want to come?" He's like, "No." And then he has like an introspective moment where he's thinking out loud. He says,
"Yeah.
When we were in the 60s and we were talking about changing things, maybe we should have been more specific."
Yeah, and they probably should have. But yeah, god damn, dude. 94, MTV was just on fire. Liquid TV and Oddities, those shows were great. Anyway.
So the kids are causing chaos. You guys talked about the toys. I'm going to get a little specific. In the truck, I saw the Nerf bow and arrow, which is one I had. I love that.
That comes back into play later for the military camp.
Yes. They also have a bunch of Super Soakers. They had a lot of 250s, which I just thought were the shit.
Yeah.
Everyone had a Super Soaker 50, which was like the little piece of shit one.
Right.
The rifle.
How hot were Super Soakers?
Oh, fuck, bro.
I mean, Super Soakers were like the fucking Jordans for middle school kids at that time. Like, if you were anything as an 11-year-old, like an 11 to 14-year-old at that time, you had that. It's like, what, you don't have a Super Soaker? The fuck is wrong with your family? Where's your Super Soaker?
Dude, I remember block parties in Oxnard, Jonathan, where like groups of 20 kids would just have Super Soaker wars with like water balloon grenades and everything.
And they
For
were
sure.
And they were absolutely the best either in the pool or at the beach because the water supply was right there with you. You just kept filling them up and blasting other kids in the eyes.
We used to just go to neighbors' houses and fill it up at their hose in the front yard.
Right.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know who these people are, but I'm taking your water.
Yeah, I'm feeling
like,
some of this.
I'm pretty sure Super Soaker has like some sort of legal responsibility in California drought problems.
Right.
You know, like
It was just one of those weird things like Airwalk shoes. Like just 90% of the people you walked by, even if they didn't have it with them at that moment, they owned it.
Oh, Jonathan was all about the airwalks.
Oh, absolutely.
I have plenty of Airwalks.
Yeah. I refused to wear anything but Airwalks in Vans for like a year and a half at one point.
Remember when we used to have soaps?
Oh, fuck
Dude,
yeah.
those were fucking awesome with the replaceable sliders.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah, man.
Man, those were
Corey
dope.
couldn't skate, but he could soap the shit out of a rail or a bench.
God, I remember my multiple pairs of rollerblades that had the indent built into the axles for the rail grinding.
Speaking of
Those are the days.
rollerblades, one of the kids jumps in the lake wearing rollerblades.
Yeah.
That's about the dumbest fucking thing I've ever
Right?
seen in my life. That's worse than the fucking...
That's literally like concrete shoes right there, you know, from the
That
mob.
dude slept with the fishes. He's dead.
Right, you're gone.
I don't think we ever saw him again in the movie. He was done. Yeah.
Right? What happened to Kevin? Kevin's been dead for days.
Let's see. They got giant sandwiches. They got
That was cool, dude. Back when Subway, you could actually order by the foot.
Yeah.
without feeling like a perv.
That's another kind of 90s trope. I can't think off the top of my head of any other movie where I saw it in, but I feel like a lot of the content I saw at that time featured like a 6 foot or larger Subway sandwich.
You know what it is? It's because this movie and Heavyweights
Maybe that's what it
both
is.
have giant sandwiches.
Yeah.
Although it's way bigger in this movie.
Did you catch the amount of Diet Cherry Coke they advertised in this movie? Yeah. And okay, so one of the things I noticed is super tiny, but so they're advertising Coke, right? But Mud makes a suggestion that one of the camp rules is if anybody finds a Taco Bell to let them know. But Taco Bell's a Pepsi company.
Yeah.
So
I didn't
kinda
know
weird.
that. That's interesting.
What
Yeah.
Pepsi... I legitimately don't know. Did Pepsi own them yet at that point? Because Pepsi didn't invent them. Pepsi bought
they
them.
might not have
Yeah.
at that
Did
point.
Pepsi buy all of Yum? Taco Bell and not Jack.
I think that's
Pizza
what
Hut.
it was. Is they bought the corporate parent and just ended up owning that chain, those selected restaurants.
There's like 4 of them. Yeah. I
yeah,
used to work for one of them
right.
when I was 18.
It's like Taco Bell and KFC, a
Yeah,
couple other ones like that. Because Coke is still Jack in the Box.
yeah, and then some of them got resold. I think KFC got resold to other owners at some point.
Jack in the Box owns Del Taco now.
Yeah, they just
Just bought
them.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope they don't screw with the Del Taco menu. That Thursday taco deal is legit.
You know what I'm mad about that Del Taco is that they got rid of the big fat chicken taco.
Yeah.
Dude, it was like fucking people needed to be PC now, you know? And so they couldn't call it a big fat chicken taco.
Is that what it is?
anymore.
Was that
I'm gonna
is
guess.
that official or did you just
That's
assume
what
that?
I made up.
Okay.
But I'm rolling with it, you
I'm
know?
going with it.
Yeah.
The word fat. Yeah, you can't say it. It's the obese chicken taco.
Yeah.
No, it's a curvy chicken taco.
Right? Yeah,
It's the thick chicken taco.
the big beautiful chicken taco.
Yeah, it's big but beautiful. Yeah, it's a BBW.
It's a realistically shaped chicken taco.
So there was one scene in there, and this goes back to right before the money mud scene. These kids were all like playing tag in the dark. Like, how cool was that? Like, I remember doing that as a kid, like in my neighborhood, out in the front yard, stuff like that, and playing hide and seek and tag, like after the street lights were already on. Like, there was always that like rare summer occasion that your parents like let you stay out later. And like, you didn't dare come home because you knew if you went inside to go to the bathroom or get water or something,
Yep.
your parents were going to say, nope, it's too fucking late.
Yeah, you're
staying
home.
in. You're done. Yeah, you're done, dude. You're like, no, my friends are still out there, you know? So
Figure out which house you can use the bathroom in that without being
oh,
caught.
dude, it was just bushes outside. Bushes and hose
Outside.
water, dude. That's
Outside.
it. But that was such a like moment that stuck with me because I really was fond of all of those like youth memories like that, you know, like those were really special and you kind of forget about those, you know, like you hear about there was one day that you and your friends didn't meet up outside sitting on the electrical transformer anymore. And then it just didn't happen anymore.
It's depressing to think about that specific point, Jonathan, because it's like those memes you see. One day you and all your friends hung out for the last time. And I hate thinking about that.
Absolutely. It's fucked because you never know that's what it is when it happens.
Right.
You know, you don't realize that's what it was until years have gone by and you look back at it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's I think that's one of the hardest parts about getting older, you know.
Like you don't plan sleepovers with your buddies anymore to play PlayStation all night. You just get drunk and pass out. And then you end up waking up there and go, fuck, what did I do?
And
Like,
there was never a point where you made a conscious decision to make that change. The change just happened.
yeah.
Like, it's very weird. It's very
But anyways, I really appreciated that moment with these kids because that was something that I did as a kid. And I think that helped relate to a lot of the things these kids did.
Yes.
Yeah, they really got it with the super soakers, the Nerf guns, the games, and like the wild like freedom of eating whatever the fuck they wanted to eat with nobody telling them. Like the kids with the whipped cream pies, you know, like they had all these whipped cream on these plates and they just smashed their faces into them and then chucked it at the neighbor. You know,
That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. I'm assuming part of it may have been just because there might have been an issue with getting the company's permission, but given it was 94 and these kids were blowing so much money, it is kind of surprising. Nary a Super Nintendo or Genesis. There's no 32Xs making appearances or Sega CDs. You know, the kind of thing that a kid at that point with hundreds of bucks in their pocket really would go buy. There's one point where the twins are playing that video game, but the game they're playing looks like it was already 20 years old in 1994. I have no idea where the hell they got it from.
Yeah.
Like,
there were literally only like two electronics like stigmas in there, which one was that huge TV that they had to cut into the cabin to
big
get
Sony
in the door.
projection TV.
And then they had the one where they were talking about like trying to start a campfire, and then it turns out, oh shit, they're just trying to get this tiny little TV, like a 9-inch TV on just so they could watch 90210.
Which kind of begs the question, what did they want the big projection TV for? Because they didn't have cable and they hadn't purchased any video game systems. So what are you doing with it?
It was never brought up again. It was like one of those, it's one of those impulse buys. Like, I want the biggest TV I can get.
Right.
Like, that's such a 12, 13-year-old like purchase though.
It is.
Like, I'll take a pack of baseball cards, some Skittles, and that big fucker right there.
Right.
You know,
That is kind of, you're right. There's kind of a surprising randomness to the way a kid that way will shop. A kid that age will shop if they're given enough money. Very incoherent shopping habits.
I do want to talk about the Star Trek connections of this movie real quick, though, just because I'm a huge Star Trek fan. So there is a USS Enterprise toy, like in the mix of all the toys coming off the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And I paused it, and there's only one. A lot of the toys there's like multiples of, and I was like, that's interesting. And then I remembered that Christopher Lloyd was in Star Trek The Search for Spock.
Yep.
And he was the bad guy. He was the Klingon in that movie.
Yes.
And then I saw Kate Mulgrew,
Yep.
who's Captain Janeway. She's like the drama girl's mother.
Yeah.
And then later, I saw Riker's beard show up.
Riker's beard. Riker's beard makes an appearance shortly before the rest of Jonathan Frakes shows up to fill it in.
Yeah, I just saw a beard pop up, and then a man filled in behind it.
It's like the reverse Invisible Man.
So there's just a lot of Star Trek shit in this movie, and I was like trying to find the connection. I was like, is this a Paramount movie? It wasn't.
No, it's just odd that it ended up that way, you know. And the weird coincidences like Lloyd and Alba ending up working together years later, and just, it's funny how those kind of snuck their way out. The Enterprise toy had to have been on purpose. Somebody had to have done that on purpose,
Right.
there was one point where they were dictating the letters to go back home to their parents, and they talked about one of the things to put in the letters was watching Star Trek 4.
Right. Yeah, The Voyage Home.
Is that the one where he fights the big Russian?
No, that's Rocky.
4.
Honestly, that line has stuck with me my whole life.
It's a good line.
Yeah. No, that's Rocky 4.
And Burgess Meredith. So there you go.
God damn.
Yeah.
This is like a Kevin Bacon thing.
6 degrees of Rocky or Star Trek.
Or Star Wars.
Or Star Wars.
You can throw Adam's Family in there also.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Fester's in the movie. So, yeah, how can we make this conversation about Star Wars?
Yeah.
What do you think a camp full of stormtroopers would be like?
Murdery.
Right?
Well, they definitely start some forest fires. They wouldn't be shooting any kids down.
They'd be attacked by Ewoks.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. I think Endor is really the Star Wars camp story.
Yeah.
Or really the moon of Endor before any real super dorks comment in to let me know I'm wrong about that.
So, of course, one of the kids gets hurt, but it's pretty mild. Mud straps Roman candles to his helmets and tries to, like, what is he, rollerblading into the lake or something
Yeah.
He was
else?
like
they've got
laying
a
down on
ramp
a
set up.
skateboard.
Okay.
Oh, that's what it was.
Going
He tries
down
to
the dock.
coffin into the lake.
Yeah.
That's what that old move was called. But when you like are skating and then you lay down, it was called a coffin, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Anyway, he gets a mild burn, I guess, and Christopher Lloyd takes him to a doctor.
The local doctor.
Right, Steve?
Yeah. I can't remember that character's name now, but he
Dr. Dunbar.
there you go. Finds a local doctor in the town nearest where they're camping and takes him along, and she can tell pretty much immediately it's a firework burn and kind of lets them know, technically I'm supposed to report this to the police because it's firework related, and Dennis talks her out of it, and then eventually turns it into an invitation to dinner. And I don't know anything about that actress, but
So I do know a little bit. So this might be familiar to you. Her name's Wendy McKenna, and I was like, she is so familiar. What is it? I have
I do sort of feel like I recognize her from something
strange
else.
level of attraction toward her.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that I didn't notice it when I was 11, but as an adult, she's a really attractive woman.
Very attractive redhead.
You think she's out of his league or what?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, she's like 20 years younger than Christopher Lloyd to start with.
Yeah.
And he looks like, just for visual purposes, Christopher Lloyd looks like he lives in a van down by the river, which he does in this movie.
But he doesn't look like Christopher Farley. He looks like he actually lives in a van down by the river.
Right. Like, he just is gross. Like, he spent the 60s and the 70s were not nice to him. The 80s were definitely not nice either. And the 90s have not been any better, for sure.
Yeah, I think he's one of those people that spent the 80s paying for what he did during the 60s.
I mean, think about him in like the shows like Taxi, where he
was
kicked
so
out.
good.
He was kind of like the bummish guy because
was always-
he looks like a bum, and he was kind of the Kramer of Taxi.
That character's name was like Ignatowski or something. But yeah, it was great.
But that's his look. for
Absolutely
sure.
it is.
Like the hobo crazy guy that's just wacky.
He was...
But it so fits his drama presence, right?
He was one of the inmates in the asylum in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and they don't even need to put makeup on him or anything. He just sort of fits there.
That movie is a powerhouse of actors.
It really
coming
is.
together.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, and I mean, Danny DeVito's got a little part in it, and
Brad Dourif.
Yeah, I mean, when you start paying attention, what a cast!
Absolutely. But the woman, the doctor, is the hot nun in Sister Act. So do you remember she goes to the convent?
Yeah.
There's all the nuns, and then there's like the young one,
Dude,
the
wow.
younger one that's like kind of attractive, at least for a nun, right?
Yeah.
At least definitely the most attractive woman in the movies.
That's because we always
Dude.
stereotype nuns with being like these old, saggy white ladies.
So does the
with
movie, though.
wrinkles, you know? I know. That's what's so funny.
I don't think I've sat through Sister Act in seriously 20 years, and I'd never put two and two together. But the moment you said it, I can see it. Absolutely.
I've watched it recently. You should give it a go, man.
It's not bad.
It's worth it. Yeah.
It's very watchable. It's just like, you know what it reminds me of? The Brady Bunch. It's just like perfectly watchable piece of 90s.
Yeah, I can see that. Whoopi Goldberg was not in very many actually good movies.
She was in Ghost.
There's Ghost and there's Sister Act, and then there's Jumping Jack Flash and that one with the dinosaur.
Her greatest role, honestly, is Star Trek The Next Generation as Guinan. She is so good in Star Trek. I'm not fucking lying.
No, it's not bad.
Wasn't she the crazy old witch in the Dark Crystal?
Was that her in the Dark
No,
Crystal?
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
It just looks like her.
She's just being shitty.
All right. I'm like, I don't remember that.
Hey, we also got a visit from Biff Tannen in this movie too. Like during this time. He's not actually Biff Tannen, but he played Biff Tannen in Back to the Future. And in this movie, he's State Trooper Hendricks. And he sees all those like delivery trucks leaving the camp and was like, what the hell is going on over here? It was just so odd to see like all of this activity going on at a camp that had supposedly been empty or run down and things like that over the years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, threw up some major red flags. So he started questioning Dennis and Mudd.
Hello, officer.
Trooper Elliot Hendricks.
Howdy. I'm, Flurm. Cy Flurm.
And he's like the oafish 90s cop, you know? There's always like an adversary to kids in movies like this that's like a complete dope. Like a dope adult.
He played football in high school and blew out both ACLs, and then like his only option was to be a state trooper. Like that's seriously like that's his life story right there.
It's true though. That's a really common trope in kids' movies. There's always some inept adult who's trying to bust them but can't quite do it. They're always just clever enough to outsmart the idiot grown up.
Dude, like you would have shown up there and been. Okay, there's some fucking there's some fuckery going on right here. Like, oh wow, I forgot to look up. You know, while you've got a room full of kids like stashed up in the ceiling. Like how fucking like just oblivious is this guy?
I honestly hate the moment when Christopher Lloyd is doing the fake sick thing.
The doctor says it's a bronchial virus.
No, thank you.
And he's like all of a sudden just like coughing and scratching himself. It's just fucking cringy, dude.
Right.
So there's this line where I always misinterpreted this line because he says he coughs really hard and says, "Oh, I shifted my liver on that one." And as a kid, I always thought he said, "Oh, I shit out of my liver on that one." I was like, "Wow, that's a hard cough."
Fucking A. But I think it really underlines like this concept. You don't notice it when you're a kid, which is the entire point. Like when you get to be an adult and you look back on some of these movies, even if the movie's not bad, even if they're not asking you to extend disbelief to some unreasonable degree, there are just certain premises and concepts and things that like an 8 to 12-year-old will just accept. Yes. Like, this seems reasonable to me. Like, in fact, the whole premise of this movie, I do not believe kids could have ever pulled this off, at least not by and large. I think most of their parents would have noticed something weird was happening, especially when this one stranger was asking them for thousands of dollars in cash all at once and had no material affiliated with the camp he was proposing to take their kids to. But, I mean, even aside from the larger premise, but just things like the kids hiding in the roof or the fact that the cop is so clearly inept, like, you know, at 11, you're like, I believe it. No questions asked, you know? But then you get to be 30-something and you're like, no, there's no way grown-ups would have really been this incapable of handling all this.
Hypothetical. With today's technology, like, let's say, Venmo, Zelle, Apple Pay, Cash App, shit like that, the technological advances that kids have and the advantages of readily available technology. Do you think kids actually could pull this off today? I think that there are definitely some 12, 13, 14-year-olds out there that could pull this shit off with the right person being paid off like a Dennis.
I think at the very bare minimum, I'll agree with you. Bare minimum, I will agree with you. It's a lot more plausible now than it would have been then. Because now kids that age can get a website put together or use their phones to shoot video footage that looks like other kids at a camp. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's a lot more feasible now than it would have been back then. Because there's, I mean, at least for my parents, and I guess maybe some other kids' parents weren't as questioning as mine were or whatever, but like, you know, if one guy had shown up, even if the pitch sounded great, my parents would have wanted to see brochures. They would have wanted to check it out. Even in '94, there were websites where you could look up camps. Like, when they sent my brother and I away, the idea of sending us away for a month to somewhere where one guy had shown up was not going to be good enough. That was not. It's like, thanks for the pitch. I'm going to look you guys up and we'll call you back.
So your parents weren't trying to get rid of you like the drama dad?
Well, they definitely were.
Okay.
But they did eventually want us back. I mean, I'll be straight up with you. There were multiple summers where my brother and I got postcards a week after we'd gotten to camp saying, your mother and I went to Hawaii. Have fun while you're there. But
sucker.
Right? But still.
So, like, if this would you be in to watch if this movie was remade like today?
No.
I mean, the thing is, no, not really, but only because I don't think I'm the right age. If I were 11 now and they remade this, I think the answer would be definitely yes.
Yeah. I think like when I was watching that and thinking about that concept, like I got the vibes of the movie Accepted. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
With Lewis Black, like where they made up the fake school and they, were able to like come
Justin
up with all
Long's
that.
in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they actually went the extra mile on that one. They,
right. But that was like right at that forefront of like being able to create your own websites and things like that. And that was pretty fucking cool though.
Yeah, it was.
I like that movie at that
internet.
high school age.
Right. Yeah, that one wasn't bad.
Because we must have been like 17 or 18, I think, Korey, when that movie came out.
Yes.
And like, so that was another age group where, it's the same thing as Camp Nowhere, but on the next level. It's college. Like, we could relate to this. I think we could pull this shit off.
Right.
So there's some romances going on a brewing here at camp. Right? So Mud and I think the girl's name is Gabby. They start to form a thing.
Yeah. The overweight girl who's not overweight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who just like changes outfits to be skinny.
Well, they had like a really special moment where Mud had been like really upset that the camp was basically going to get shut down or they were going to divulge that this was all his idea or whatever. And so he goes off on his own and Gabby comes in to where Mud was hiding basically, or just having like, an alone moment because kids need safe spaces, stuff like that. They came up with this oath where they decided that once they're no longer qualifying themselves as the nerd category or the chubby girl category, or whatever the category they felt that they belonged to, and they became cool, that they were going to be, they're going to have an interest in each other and they were going to be friends or more or whatever. But you saw like an organic like development of the relationship between them at that moment.
Okay, what about Zach and Trish?
I mean, dude, he's that guy that I think has the ability to talk to girls and flirt and do whatever. Like I didn't have that ever. And he was that like good looking guy that could have got any girl in the school, but I don't know. There was something weird about it. And like I think he had the crush on Trish's friend, not actually Trish.
Yeah,
the little quiet girl.
I just want to say that, Jonathan, you don't give yourself enough credit. You did just fine. Remember that girl that my neighbor liked you? What was her name? Brenda?
Yeah.
She used to call you chicken legs.
Oh my God, dude. So she's married with like 3 kids and she's a Satanist. So
cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So she's still around. She's still living on the same street.
So she parties is what you're telling me.
Oh, she still lives there?
Yeah.
Yeah, she liked you. Remember Samantha Michelson?
Yeah, she's got like 5 kids.
Oh, you know her?
She's wild. Yeah. Yeah.
You still know these people?
Yeah, dude. Still know a lot of people.
That's cool.
It's weird keeping in contact with people you knew like in middle school and they've got kids and stuff. And there's a girl that I'm not going to mention her by name, but there's a girl that I liked in middle school who I keep in contact with, and it's a totally platonic thing, but she's got children now and it's kind of strange.
Your middle school crush?
She was one of my middle school crushes. I never limited myself to one. There was always like a platter of girls that I was like, any one of these would be fine with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. But between Zach and Trish, that's the more well, they were all kind of cliche in their own way, but that one, I think they forced it too much. And the Zach character's got this whole bit about how he's going to drop out of middle school and go live in Mexico because they let 14-year-olds drive there.
Okay, so his subplot is that he might drop out of school.
Right, and it's like, you're not.
Dude, that was all a fucking sham, dude. That was just for play.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, come on, you really think that Trish is buying? And of course, she does buy it for the sake of the movie. But like, yeah, everyone believes that 14-year-old you is going to run off to Mexico without your parents because you can drive there.
Okay, but so then But that's what leads me to believe that Zach was actually interested in the other girl, because they had that moment in the shop where he was like, make a necklace or something, right? Like he was trying to like take care of this girl. And like, it was hard to tell whether he like genuinely cared about her or it was like a big brother kind of viewpoint.
I thought it was
or
Big
something.
Brother.
Yeah, I
like,
always took it as a big brother because that girl always seemed
I don't know.
too much younger for him to be.
Yeah.
She always seemed like she was like the 11 or 12-year-old in the group, and they were, I don't know, I
think he wanted the other girl because he was like, I wish you were wearing a skirt right now.
Yeah, I'd be in heaven if you were wearing a skirt.
Well,
So weird.
I don't know. He likes the younger ones. He did in 10 Things I Hate About You also. I mean, dude, she was like a freshman and he was a senior.
He was the same character. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
If Larissa Olenek had been at high school with me, she would never have been interested, but I absolutely would have tried anyway.
Okay, so there's more romances going on. We talked about Christopher Lloyd Dennis having a date with the hot doctor lady.
Oh, yeah.
Mud pretends to be a son. Now, the best part about that whole thing is when he, like, puts Mud to bed, because Mud falls asleep during the date. He's like, I'm going to go just put him in his bedroom. You go ahead and pour yourself a glass of wine. And he just dumps him outside, like, on the hard dirt. That's a good moment.
Yeah, I mean, he sets himself up to get busted. All he had to do was say, let's go talk on the porch swing or something while Mud sleeps on the couch. Or he could have just taken her to the bedroom or something. Like,
he wasn't going to get a blowy on the porch with kids out there, man.
No. Well, the kids were up at the main camp. He's down by the lake. I'm just saying so they can talk for a few minutes, and then you move up to where, the other stuff.
I contend that Christopher Lloyd fucks in this movie.
Probably.
Oh, he
screen.
does. Off screen?
Well, he doesn't do it on screen.
No, obviously.
But I think she stayed the night.
Yeah.
She stayed the night, and then she ends up kind of looking the other way about everything at the end, and they run off together. So yeah, something's happening.
Yeah, man.
There was some, I forget the quote, but they definitely talked about whatever happened the night before in the morning.
That's me.
They allude to sex.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, getting that out of the way. But
Horniness.
here's the big thing of the movie, the thing that I remember in my mind. When I think back on Camp Nowhere, I think about the Parents' Day debacle. So supposedly these kids all went to camps that do not have a Parents' Day.
That would have been another red flag, I think. Honestly, they tell all these parents, here's one guy, we have no promotional material. I want $3,000 in cash, and by the way, you're not allowed to visit.
And camp is 2 weeks longer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and it's good. We're going to keep your kids for like 6 weeks. Oh. Man,
but the parents are a coming anyway.
It's also interesting that all of them seemingly decided that they were going to do it.
Just doing it anyway.
Yeah.
But okay, so not all of them were though. It was Trish's parents that decided they were going to come see this rendition of Annie.
That's
and
true.
then they go, "Oh fuck, her parents are coming, so we might as well pitch it to the rest of the parents and let's all coordinate it." And have them come here on our terms when we want them to come here.
It seems like, I don't know. I get. You're absolutely right, and I guess I get why they would do that. But at the same time, I'd be like, well, let's just do it for the theater camp then. Why? Or if you're gonna do it, then don't have all the parents come on the same day. Have theater camp
like literally 15 minutes apart.
Yeah, have theater camp be Monday, and army camp be Tuesday, and computer camp be Wednesday.
But then they can't get up to shenanigans, Steve.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you write this shit for the shenanigans, not because it makes sense.
This is a movie chock full of shenanigans, sir.
I think the parents' visit needed the chaos to it in order to get them in and get them out.
No,
if
you're
they
right.
had let them just fuck around and come see camp for a half a day, like they would be hosed like instantly.
What's with all these Nerf guns?
Right?
This isn't an effective way to learn theater.
Yeah.
It's Nerf theater.
It's Nerf or nothing theater.
I thought the most fucked up one was when Zach's dad got there and they just like straight put him into his like PTSD of being in the war or something like that. Like they fucked him up.
Okay,
like,
let's go through them. Military camp first.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
So Zach's dad is obviously a military man. And when he shows up, the first thing that I thought of was that Zach was going to a different military camp with such a tightly wound instructor that was going to teach him discipline and do all this stuff, but he didn't make him cut his hair right then and there. Like you would think that at the first day of military camp that they're going to buzz their fucking heads, right? Well, red flag number one.
The boys got to earn their due.
Right?
Their hairdo, that is.
Just take a little off the sides.
Another great film.
In the army now. Just take a little off the sides.
Yeah.
Anyways, so Zach's dad shows up, and all of a sudden Zach jumps out in front of the car, says to stop, get out. They got to go, and they got to go onto the ground. They got to army crawl. They got to do this. They got to do that. He gets stuck in a foxhole, and there's gunfire coming over the loudspeakers. Like, it was such bullshit. Like, if I showed up and my kid was telling me to do all this, I'd be like, no, dude, I'm not crawling on the fucking ground. Like, I just got here. Like,
yeah, he's wearing a suit, and thank you. He spends the whole time in a hole while stuff gets thrown at him. Like, there's no way he would just stay.
Like, it's like 12 hours later, and he's still in the fucking hole, and his kid brings him a liver sandwich, and they've been like, fuck you, kid. Like, I'm out of here.
I want to see.
Like, come on, we're going home.
Right, this is what I want to see. The guy in charge. Bring me the dude. Like, I'm here in the hole getting dirty while you're running around doing what?
Well, it's like you said, Jonathan. They play to his PTSD.
Yeah, I think that's really what it is. Like, they fucked him up, so that he would stay there.
So when he hears gunfire, like, Fortunate Son starts playing in his head,
Yeah, right.
You could absolutely
helicopter blades whirring in the background.
You could absolutely be right, but there'd never been any indication earlier in the film that dude had even been in the service, let alone that he had PTSD.
No, this is pure speculation.
And
this is not in the text.
Right?
This is subtext.
And like, it just, I don't know. The whole thing seems so crazy. Like, the rest of it is at least more plausible than that, I think. But I don't know.
Let's continue on. What else? What other kind of fake camps do they have going, Steve?
They got the fake computer camp. This is another really ridiculous one where they make Morris's parents and some other people think that the kids might potentially actually be hacking military computers and like directing Air Force traffic. And at first the parents kind of convince themselves that it's just a fake, like a simulation to teach the kids how to do something.
Yeah, they're just playing F-15 Strike Eagle on PC.
DEFCON.
Right? This is just a Jane's game or something. But then the planes fly over, and they clearly want the parents to think that the kids might be controlling the planes. And it's like, that's not the point where you tell everyone to stop. Like, you're standing here watching your kid. You think your kid, I mean, it's an idiotic thing to think. I don't think any adult really would have bought that they were hacking into military computers. But even still, you think that's what they're doing. You think that they've released fighter planes, fighter jets from an Air Force base nearby. You don't say, hey, let's stop this right now and explain to me why this is happening. Like, why is this what my kid is doing?
Yeah, I just wanted my kid to learn HTML.
Right? Like,
I just wanted my kid to learn how to code MySpace.
Yeah. Like, you told me the kid was going to learn how to use Excel, and they appear to be hacking military computers.
How are they on spreadsheets? Come on. Can they do VLOOKUPs?
And how did you get 12 to 14-year-olds to this level so quickly? They've all gotten to the point where they can hack military computers?
Yeah, like Mud's dad was like, "Are they hacking the Pentagon?"
Right? Like, no, they're not. And you should know better.
Dude, they didn't even have a phone line out there, man. Come on.
Right? They don't have cable, but they've got the capacity to hack military computers. Also, they've got 5 computers set up in a room, and they all look like 486s. But anyway, yeah. There's also the twins are there, and I think those twins were in a few other movies. I think
Problem Child.
Yeah, and I think they might have been. Were they?
Are they the twins from The Shining?
No. If they remade The Shining, those kids would have been in it, though. Were they in Kindergarten Cop? I think the two of them might be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those kids had got a handful
Our
of
mom
work.
says our dad's a real
There
sex
you go.
machine.
Yeah. Yeah, those kids got a handful of work out of being twins when they were younger. That's interesting.
Definitely.
Oh, why were they so mad about their grandma, though?
Yeah, they did not like their grandmother. Must have given bad Christmas gifts or something.
Yeah, maybe she never had any Werther's Originals when they went over to her house.
Right?
Right. She probably actually had cookies in the sewing kit instead of...
My mother's mother was not known to be a particularly friendly woman, but I wouldn't have bombed her house. Like...
No.
Like...
It was fake. They were playing a game, at least. They weren't...
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, it was pretend.
Yeah.
You know? But,
all right, what else? We got Drama Camp.
Drama Camp, that the two parents... Jonathan Frakes' beard and Captain Janeway managed
Captain Janeway's hair.
And Captain Janeway's hair show up to see the what they think is like the last 12 seconds of their daughter Trish singing the end of the whatever that name of that song is from Annie. It's like the most famous song from Annie.
Yeah.
Then of course they they give her a lot of applause backstage, and her father says, "I loved that opening number," which is kind of amusing.
Good line.
It is a good line.
It just keeps playing to the role of like how out of touch he is on every aspect of his kid.
I mean, that's really the thing. The whole end of it really just sort of underlines that these parents not only were dumb enough to get duped into sending their kids to places that weren't actually camps, but that they're all buying this obviously fake Parents' Day experience.
Trish's parents were probably the only ones that really could have been like duped into this because they're so out of touch. Like the dad was instantly like, wait, camp's gonna be 2 weeks longer. We could stay in Europe until fucking, next year.
He can't even get his kids straight. Like he gets them mixed up.
That's another thing they walk back on, because early in the film, you're absolutely right. He gets excited at the idea of Trish being at camp for 2 weeks longer because it means he and his wife can spend the extra days in Europe. But flash forward to later in the film, he and his wife are hanging around in the backyard at home when his wife makes the decision to go see Trish at camp. So it's like, what happened to Europe?
Exactly.
That's real weird. You guys decided not to go, huh? You seemed really excited about that trip earlier in this movie. And like, fuck.
That's maternal instinct right there. She fucking ixnayed that trip.
Right? Yeah, we're just going to drop this trip we planned months ago and spent a bunch of money booking. But whatever.
There's also the fat camp where literally nothing happens.
No, there's the fat camp that's not a fat camp. And the one kid there who's arguably really very large, I'm not making fun of the kid, but the one kid there who's arguably big clearly didn't lose any weight at all while he was there. So
he hasn't lost a pound.
Yeah, like, so what's going on here?
He made sure none of the food went to waste.
Right.
The only fat camp thing that happens is Christopher Lloyd as Richard.
Hey!
I don't know if we talked about this very thoroughly, but Christopher Lloyd acts as if he's the camp director of each of these four camps, and he has different personas for each. He's got the tough military guy with the scar on his face, which isn't that intimidating. He's kind of more goofy, to be honest.
When he's introducing himself to Morris's dad as the head of the computer camp, he gives his last name as Wozniak, like Steve Wozniak from Apple, which I thought was amusing.
He's got a Bill Cosby sweater, and he looks like a dork. But the fat camp
Morris's dad was like, "Oh, nice sweater."
Right. The fat camp one is the Richard Simmons archetype, right?
Yeah.
It's like that character, which was very much of its time, right? And so much so that a modern child watching this movie would not know what that is intended to be.
No. I was 11 when this film came out, and I had a sort of vague idea of who Richard Simmons was, but that was it.
Even now, it's just a little bit of a stretch, but you still make the association.
I'm only asking to ask if they had a reaction. Did your kids watch this one with you?
No. I didn't.
Okay. Yeah.
By yourself? You watched it alone?
Well, I had my 3-year-old with me, but she wasn't
she's
interested.
too little to...
She wasn't interested.
Yeah.
So there are some villains in this movie. One we talked about a little bit, Tom Wilson.
Yeah.
And one we talked about a little bit less, he's the debt collector.
Yeah.
Now, as a kid, I didn't really understand what the fuck he was. It's almost like he was like a FBI agent or something, but he's a debt collector that is very hands-on.
Yeah, he's very hands-on. He explains that in 1979, Christopher Lloyd's character agreed to make something like 48 or 60 payments on a basically neon vomit piss yellow colored gremlin. And that
Caribbean yellow.
Caribbean yellow, there you go. And the Dennis Welker character made something like 3 payments on it and then never paid for it again. And the debt from the dealership has been sold to the collection agency that this character works for, and he wants to retire with a perfect record by
all this to
things.
repo a car.
And he doesn't even really want to repo the car. He just wants to get all the back money owed.
Right, but like if the person doesn't pay you, you take the property back. Like,
which it would. I mean, at that point, that's one of those situations where the person who's owed the debt gets fucked, because at that point, there's no way a 20-year-old gremlin was worth whatever was still owed.
Exactly, but even later, it gets worse. He's like talks about getting a warrant for the debt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what world does this guy live in? Like,
right.
He's going to arrest him for having debt.
Right. Yeah, the idea of debtor's prison doesn't really exist anymore. They can sue you for failing to live up to the terms of the contract, but I don't think jail was really an option there.
What's the point of suing him? You obviously don't have any fucking money,
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. Funny. I remember a lawyer explaining to me once that a lot of time, even when they've got a good lawsuit, they won't go through because there's no point in successfully suing somebody who's got no money to give you.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because lawsuits are expensive themselves.
Yeah.
But so Tom Wilson, the cop, and then this debt collector guy, they're kind of been honing in on this whole thing. And it comes to a head during Parents' Day through the most obscene moment of slapstick comedy I've ever seen in my life. It's revealed that this whole thing was a hoax. Steve, you remember this reveal moment, right? It's just out of control.
Well, when Biff goes back into the commuter camp with Mud's parents, yeah, they've been changing over this one room to look like the various different camps. You know, they've got curtains they can drop and props they can bring in. And so during one part of the day, it's the headquarters for the computer camp. And during a different part of the day, it was the main area for the exercise camp and blah, blah, blah. So they've got all this stuff set up in there. It's basically, I think a lot of people wouldn't know this or notice, but it's actually set up very much the same way they set up the wings and the backstage area at a playhouse. They need to be able to change over sets quickly at a playhouse so the audience doesn't have to wait a tremendous amount of time during set changes. So they've got stuff strung up in the rafters that can be dropped at a moment's notice when they need it. And they've got things on wheels off stage in the wings that can be brought in. And that even includes backgrounds and backdrops. And that part of it, I think, is kind of clever because the leader of this sham is an adult who used to be a drama teacher. So, of course, it's going to make sense to him to do this in such a way that they can just change over the set over and over again very quickly. But yeah, the Mud's parents have been in there and they think they've seen computer camp. And Mud says, oh, I'm going to stay in here with the counselor and help clean up for a few minutes. And when the trooper comes back around and Mud's father realizes that the guy they think is the camp counselor is the one the trooper is looking for, Morris's dad takes him back inside where he thinks the camp is being held and realizes that it's basically just a stage. That it's full of props and stuff, and there's nothing there.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like, good God,
Right.
the amount of slapstick beats they hit in this moment, it's just excessive, dude.
Right.
It's like he slips on a banana peel, he falls in a little pool, it's like Mousetrap, bro. It's fucking too much. What did you think, Jonathan?
Yeah, it was too much. Like the hitting the sign with the Nerf rocket with a fucking, Roman candle on it in order to make the sign slide off, like weird shit like that. It was just too much. And that whole scene, all of it was a waste without the very brief, small moment that Bulldog shows up and asks Mud's parents if he'd seen Dennis, and they were like, huh, Wozniak? And he's like, no, Dennis. And he's like, wait a minute. So without that like WTF moment, all of that shit, they would have just got away with everything.
Yeah.
Like, and it was just like, really, like that's the part that this thing fell to shit. Like,
the connective thread to the reveal is a little bit thin, isn't it?
The Wilkers character
such a letdown.
Committed grand larceny, or at least fraud, on a fairly substantial scale and technically legally kidnapped all those kids, both of which are federal crimes, and somehow he doesn't get arrested at the end. Their excuse for that is that none of the parents decided to press charges, which is ridiculous on its face. Some of those parents would have pressed charges. But even if that's true, they don't need charges. They can arrest you for breaking the law even if no one else cares that you did it. So it's like kidnapping's a federal crime. They don't let you go just because the parents are like, I guess I don't mind. He technically committed fraud and took my kid somewhere I didn't give him permission to. Like children minors are not allowed to give consent to be taken from their parents. They can't do that. It's why minors can't engage in contracts.
So Dennis, he decides to take the blame, which I guess rightfully so. From his perspective, he's like, it was the kid's idea. They did kind of blackmail me, but I'll just say, I'll take the blame. Whatever. I'm the adult. I'll take responsibility. So he's like telling everyone, he's like, yeah, so, I brought in all these kids. But then he kind of goes crazy with it.
V.A.
Right? Oh, yeah. He starts talking about it being a religious cult.
He's like, yeah, well, I plan to indoctrinate them into my religious cult eventually. And Allison Mack, you see her perk up in the background.
Exactly. Which, that doesn't, I get that he's trying to be a good guy and alleviate the kids from being punished too heavily. And that part makes sense. But why embellish to that degree? He doesn't need to make it that much worse on himself. He could have just said, look, guys, the whole thing was my idea and the kids went along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But of course the kids, they take the blame. They say, no, It was my idea. I'm Spartacus. Whatever, they do that thing.
Right. For those of you who haven't seen Spartacus, go look up Spartacus.
Just watch Cop and a Half. They do it in Cop and a Half, too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Devin Butler.
Cop and a Half is definitely the best way to learn about Spartacus.
So, Jonathan, they fix up this car pretty nicely, don't they?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out where the fuck they got a decent paint booth to take care of this car in the camp, man. Like, what a really nice paint job. They got glass for it. They got paint. They got wheels,
glass,
leather.
That's a good point. I never thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, they got brand new interior. Yeah. Like, it was unreal. And then to just give the car to Dennis and Dr. Dunbar.
Somehow the 14-year-old there who's had a single junior high school level auto shop class is capable of doing all of this by himself.
Over the course of 2 months?
Yeah, exactly.
My grandpa fixed up a 57 Chevy.
Yeah.
And it took him like 10 years or something.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was going to say. Even the kind of adult who has plenty of money to spend and lots of time to, like, at the absolute best case scenario, it's going to take you a year, 18 months. I mean, and that's assuming you've got tons of spare time and money to spend on doing this. For most of these guys, like your granddad, it takes years. I had a neighbor who was rebuilding a 429 Mach 1 Mustang in his garage, and he was really dedicated at it and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I think by the time he was done, it had been in his garage for 7-8 years, something like that.
Right.
And this is not something a 14-year-old with one auto shop class and a little bit of help could do in 6 weeks. Like, I mean, most of, as Jonathan was pointing out, most of what he did wasn't even within the bounds of the equipment they had to do it. He didn't have gallons of automotive paint. He didn't have the guns to spray the car with. He didn't have a rotisserie to put the body on or a paint booth to do the work in. Like,
what about the tool truck?
Yeah, the Snap-on tools would not have covered his ability to do that. Like,
you know what? That actually makes sense of why the Snap-on truck was there now, because he wanted tools for fixing the car.
Only the best.
Like, literally all I ever saw was him rebuilding a carburetor. Yeah, like, exactly. And that's the only thing that you ever learn at like junior high school auto shop.
Exactly. Or gapping the spark plugs, you know? And the movie's only 1 hour and 36 minutes long. They could have made the movie 9 minutes longer, make it 1 hour 45 and have a scene there where he's actually doing something with the car. But yeah.
Like, at least like getting in there and turning the ignition on or something. Right. You know?
And then I think, if I recall the end scene correctly, what they end up with is circa like a 57 Bel Air convertible, which at something like restored at a Barrett Jackson auction's got to be worth $65,000-$75,000 or more.
That's over $100,000 right now for a fully restored 57 convertible. Yeah.
Like, so fucking,
Could have been one of the cheaper years. Maybe it was only a 54 or something. Right. That's why it was left out in the woods.
Oh, man.
So Dennis basically doesn't get in any trouble because no one presses charges like we talked about. The kids are in trouble, but like, Jonathan, are there like lessons learned? Like, do the parents and the kids maybe learn something from this whole thing?
Not much.
Is there a takeaway like that?
I don't think that they really like talked about any good takeaway, like no solid plan after this.
Mud's grounded.
That I knew of. I mean, Mud was grounded till he was 30. But like his dad wasn't even mad.
I feel like his dad was maybe a little bit more accepting of who he is as a person. Maybe at the end, I know it's light. There's not a lot there, but like he kind of hands him some comic books, which Mud said earlier. Like, my dad does not let me read comics because they're a waste of time. And he kind of says, I got these for you. Like maybe there's a little bit of like more familial connection made after the events of Camp Nowhere.
Yeah, I guess.
Am I reaching?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, Mud's father, I guess, is supposed to be accepting now the whole concept that just because Mud is smart doesn't mean he can't do dumb things. But like, that's the biggest lesson learned there. None of the other kids even seem to have any conversation about it. Trish's father walks up on her trying to eat Zach's tonsils. They're making out so hard. And fucking, he doesn't say anything about that. In fact, he then agrees to take Zach home, which is like, well, number one, isn't Zach's father coming back to get him? How are you going to deal with that?
Dude, that guy went to a psych ward. Like,
right?
Come on, man.
Like, nobody's really, I mean, some people did, but very few people had cell phones in 94. So it's not like they're likely to call him and say, hey, we're taking your kid home. So his dad's probably going to wonder where he is. Also, you just walked up on this kid like 2/3 of the way to second base with your daughter. And like maybe you don't want them in the same car together for a while. I don't know. When I was a teenager, it seemed to me like most of the teenage girls' fathers were at least a little bit concerned about the prospect of them getting pregnant. But maybe he doesn't give a shit. You know?
Yeah, there's a few makeouts at the end, right?
Yeah, there are, I think.
Yeah, doesn't Mud and Gabby make out
They
also?
just shake hands, I thought.
No, they make out, dude.
Oh, okay.
It's full on.
Is it?
Yeah. It's like Blank Check, but less weird. Because it's two kids instead of an adult and a kid.
Oh, yeah, the end of Blank Check probably would not play today. I don't think a lot of this would play today. I think it's interesting Disney Plus even still has it.
No, you can't have an adult tongue kiss a child.
No. No. Yeah.
That shouldn't have played then.
No, it really shouldn't have. It is. There are occasional instances where I'm like, yeah, the backlash is deserved. But
honestly, no one gives a shit about Blank Check, so there really is no backlash.
No, that's
because
right.
No one cares about it because it sucks.
See, that's where you get off lucky, is when your movie is one of those that nobody cares enough about anymore to actually comment on.
Right.
People have just forgotten that you did that thing to begin with. You know, especially the wonderful career that lead actor, the kid from that movie, had afterward, which is, oh, wait, actually, I don't think he's doing anything else.
That poor kid. I talked about his life in a different podcast I did, but
I don't really actually know anything about him. Aside from that, I don't think he was in anything else.
he kind of had some troubles later on, but he seemed to like get out of it. Whatever. Don't need to go into it.
Even without having had any issues, it must be really strange to have been in like 3 or 4 movies between the ages of 10 and 14, and then your acting career just doesn't exist anymore. I
know.
That's got to be a strange feeling. Like, I was a little bit famous for 4 years as an adolescent, and now no one even remembers who I was.
I know.
Yeah.
Probably fucks you up.
It probably does. It probably really does. Very few of those kids come out without some scars. Yeah.
But this movie pretty much ends with Walter finally living out his horny fantasy.
Yeah, he is in the lake with Betty while all the parents are still there with the cops wrapping up. They give you the impression that she's finally skinny dipping in the lake based on the fact that it looks like she's not wearing anything.
Right, we kind of see the neck and above, and the rest is underwater.
Yeah, like she's wearing like a bathing suit that doesn't have shoulder straps or anything.
Yeah.
So she finally convinces Walter to go ahead and take his shorts off, and he does. And then she just gets up and walks out with his shorts. So like he's stuck there in the cold water.
Naked.
But naked.
She basically pranks his ass for being such a horny little douchebag.
Yeah, for
Fucking
sure.
Walter.
Betty.
But she just had certain like a look about her and her like physical development and things like that, and the way she like spoke. She seemed like she was older than all the other kids.
Oh, you
that
mean
were
like
there.
the 30-year-olds on Beverly Hills 90210 playing high school students?
Maybe not that old, but like I felt like maybe she was a lot closer to like being 16, 17.
Yeah.
The ages
than
on these
she
kids
was closer to 12 and 13.
It does seem to vary. Like Walter, he like looks like he hasn't gone through puberty yet, you know, because he's like little. He's like a little boy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tadell. He looks like Tadell in the picture on your fridge.
What up, Tadell? Tadow. Those were the days. All right. So this movie ends here. Do you guys have any final thoughts?
There's a few little things I wanted to throw in. When the kids there's one part where Zach attempts to buy some beer at a local store, and he gets told by the clerk that the local drinking age is 19, which is weird to me. I don't know where the fuck
The purchase age is 19.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense. In most states, at least as far as I'm aware, you have to be drinking age to buy the beer. And I don't know anywhere where in the U.S. where drinking age isn't 21.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But also, we were talking about it a little bit earlier. The clerk they try to get the beer from is a kid actor named Patrick LeBeck. It's also the name of a professional hockey player, so it's kind of hard to get the two of them separate on the internet. But LeBrecht was one of those kids who had a real short-lived career during the early 90s. He was in Heavyweights. He was in Beethoven.
Who was he in Heavyweights?
I don't remember the character's name, but he was a large kid in real life, so he was a good fit for the part. He was in the original Beethoven. He was in Lawnmower Man. And I misspoke before. It wasn't Angels in the Outfield. And he was Rookie of the Year he was in. He plays one of the lead kid's friends in Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
There's a scene where the trooper, Biff, chases them to a car wash. and Dennis ends up getting dragged into the car wash with the cop car. Dennis's pants are trapped in the cop car's door. And right at the end of the car wash scene, he gets dragged with it to where the wax is going to be applied. But then 30 seconds later, Dennis walks out of the car wash covered in wax, but not attached to the cop car, where the cop car is 2 vehicles behind him. So it's like, how did you arrange that? Doesn't really make any sense.
I'm going to say that was like a paranoia after the heat of hot wax all over you.
Maybe
and he
that's
just
what it was.
fucking ran out and ripped his pants. Because his pants were ripped.
Right. Oh, that is true. So maybe that's what it was. Maybe he just yanked himself out.
That was one of the dumbest scenes, by
It
the way.
was.
The car wash scene. Like, I'm glad we didn't even really talk about it.
Yeah,
Me too.
Fuck that. Lord.
There was a scene previewed, the very, very first theatrical trailer for this. There was a moment where they show the kids making omelets, and they invented a popcorn omelet, and it explodes on them. But they decided after that first trailer was cut to remove that part of the omelet scene from the movie, so the subsequent trailers didn't have it. I found that very disappointing. At 11, I wanted to see the popcorn omelet.
Okay.
And then last thing. There is actually in Providence, Rhode Island, North Providence, Rhode Island, very near where the Griffins are supposed to live in Family Guy, there is a bar called Camp Nowhere that is themed for the movie.
So I want to speak to that. So I looked up this bar, and it is supposedly themed to the movie.
Yeah, supposedly.
But it just looks like a bar.
Yeah, it basically
But
does.
It is based on the movie. The owners did explicitly say that it's a play on the 90s movie, and the tagline of the movie is on the sign at the bar. It says, no parents, no counselors, no rules. So in the little promotional video I saw for this bar, they said, obviously that's a joke, but it's a play on the popular 90s movies Camp Nowhere. And I was like,
Which the 3 of us and maybe 40 other people actually remember.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's a good thing our podcast is here because no one fucking remembers that movie.
Right? You know,
Shout
that's
out
why-
to the Camp Nowhere bar. If we ever come out there, you owe us a beer.
Did you guys know I owned an arm wrestling themed bar called Over the Top?
Based on the popular Sylvester Stallone movie.
Right?
Everybody had to wear their hats backwards.
Anyway, that's it from me.
So I want to say that Allison Mack,
Oh, yeah.
she was in a TV series briefly called The Nightmare Room, and she was in 2 episodes called Camp Nowhere, part 1 and 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's a strange connection.
What a coincidence.
Oh, boy. It's an interesting cast.
All right, let's go into ratings. Jonathan, on any rating scale you want, what are you going to give Camp Nowhere?
Oh, man. I'm going to give this... Oh, fuck me, dude. This movie is trash.
Kind of is.
It's going to be 2 lima beans out of 10 for me.
Even harsher than I'm going to be.
Yeah. I mean, it was fun in a nostalgic way, but this movie is total bullshit, not plausible.
It is.
It's like there are so many holes with this thing. Dennis should have gone to prison for the rest of his fucking life. You know, all these kids should have gotten like 400 hours of community service. This movie was just a mess from the beginning, but it's still fun to watch, I guess. And if you look at it from the viewpoint of a 12 or 13-year-old that would be interested in getting away from your parents and going to the camp and doing that kind of thing on your own, then I guess it's entertaining from that point. But as a parent, like, fuck this movie.
Right.
You know, my kid ever tried some shit like this on me, like, dude, he's getting locked in his room for the next 20 years.
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to go next. I'm going to give this movie a 4.5 out of 10 hot nuns from Sister Act. I mean, it's really hard to rate this movie because I do like the nostalgia it gives me, like a lot of the movies we do, but this movie does not survive on its own merits whatsoever, my friend.
Yeah.
It is not good, but I enjoy the experience. So it's one of those like movies that's in a weird place for me. It's not Heavyweights. It doesn't hold a fucking candle to a movie like Heavyweights or any of its contemporaries, really. If you think about 90s camp movies or things, I don't think it's as good as Salute Your Shorts. I don't think it's as good as Addams Family Values. I don't think
it's definitely not.
I don't think it's as good as The Parent Trap. The list goes on. It might be equivalent to It Takes Two. I think the Olsen twins go to camp in that movie.
Oh, that is harsh. Oof.
Or that one's probably worse. I don't know. Those movies have a tendency to go dive into a lot of shitty green screen because they don't film on location and they make them for $2 a movie. But anyway, it's just kind of stupid and crazy and plot holy and wacky. But, I mean, it's a relic of the 90s as demonstrated by the intro credits where it's just like loud, in-your-face, 90s rock, colorful words.
It's very early 90s, yeah.
So anyway, it's all right, I guess. Steve, what do you think?
I'm pretty much on board with both of you. I'm actually surprised that my rating's going to end up being so close to Korey's. I was expecting to be a little bit lower. And I'm also surprised I'm going to be a little bit higher than Jonathan. It's a dumb movie. The concept is dumb. It's totally implausible on many different levels, including that A, the kid should have been in more trouble, and B, that Dennis should be going to jail. It's full of plot holes. The concept is ridiculous. It doesn't stand out as being particularly good in any regard, even compared to other movies of the type from the era. That being said, I don't feel like it's substantially worse than a lot of what else was being aimed at that audience at the time. I think that also we've got to keep in mind that the primary audience for this movie was not people in their 30s, 25 years after it came out, you know? The primary audience for this movie was 11 and 12-year-olds in 1994, and for that reason alone, I will give it more leeway than otherwise.
That's who it's for now, though.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, that's the catch, and it's part of why I asked Jonathan if his kids had watched it with him, because the extension there, the problem there is that I don't think 12-year-olds now would necessarily hate it, but I don't think they would identify with it or like it on the same level that the same age group would have at the time.
I think they're totally out of touch. Like, it's just totally different generation now. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, these kids don't even know what a floppy disk is.
Right. And they would want
the computers they were using.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? They'd all just have smartphones with them now. Those kids, for some reason, didn't even buy themselves Game Gears, which makes no sense. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, I think overall for me, I'm probably going to go just a bump above Korey. I will give it 5 out of 10 unsupervised children. Just because, even though it's dumb, even though it's not plausible, even though there's a lot of holes with it, and none of us particularly enjoyed it. At the same time, again, I don't think it's substantially worse. It's not any better, but I don't think it's substantially worse than anything else that was aimed at the same audience at the time. And for that reason alone, I'll give it a 5, which I consider to be absolutely average. So, yeah.
Pretty generous.
Yeah, I think it's a little generous. I could see going down as low as a 4. I might not go quite as low as Jonathan did. I might be convinced to reduce it to a 4, but yeah.
I could probably give my rating another half a lima bean for Christopher Lloyd's range.
See, that's
you know
part
what I
of
mean?
it. Lloyd
he's
is entertaining.
So good.
Yeah, he's really is entertaining in the movie. And there were a couple slide jokes for grown-ups in there that I didn't get as a kid. You know, there's one joke where Lloyd is looking, I think, at a Highlights magazine or something, trying to find missing characters in a scene, and the doctor tells him that he should check out the Time article on Middle East peace talks because there's 12 clowns in that one.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't get that joke as an 11-year-old, but it was kind of a funny joke.
Or when he's like in the camp and the guy's saying like how a bunch of hippies in the 60s made it a peace and love commune.
Right, and Mr. Vandersnatch, like, come on, some of that stuff is sort of amusing.
Well, Christopher Lloyd's like, he's like, oh, I knew I remember this place from somewhere. They're like, you did that stuff here?
Right.
And he's like, no.
Not
And he takes
here.
one step to the right. Like, as if to say, no, right here.
Yes. So, you know, it's not awful. It's not particularly good. It isn't my favorite movie from that era. In fact, I don't think I'd actually sat through this movie in at least 20 years. But still, I just didn't think it was terrible.
So this is in the area for Jonathan of Baby's Day Out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really interested in, like, you know, making this one on my Disney Plus wish list to watch, you know, but I didn't mind watching it, and I enjoy watching Christopher Lloyd act.
Yeah, me too.
And especially in the 90s, like, although he was so much the same, he was so himself in every role. He was also so unique in every role throughout the 90s there as well. And I enjoy watching that aspect of it.
I mean, among Christopher Lloyd movies, it's not as if this was my favorite Martian, you know. Could have been worse.
Right. But what's better, this or Angels in the Outfield?
I know you guys are going to disagree with me, but if I'm being honest, I don't like Angels in the Outfield very much. I didn't like Rookie of the Year very much either. They were never like on. I don't mean to be shitty about it. I never hated either of them. I just never particularly liked either of them. You know. So anyway,
there we have it.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for this episode. If you, the listeners, want to write in, you can email us at bigdumbmovie@gmail.com. Leave us a positive rating and written review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram as well. Big Dumb Movie Podcast over there. Check us out.
I just realized we have an Instagram. All right.
It's been years, Steve. I've had it for years.
You have. It's true. I just keep forgetting.
So yeah, give us a like, give us a follow. Find us on YouTube and give this episode a thumbs up. Even if you don't listen on YouTube, subscribe to us there, please.
At the very least, give me a thumbs up. I mean, come on.
Yeah, subscribe to Steve's YouTube channel where he displays his anime pillows.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my collection. Right.
That's it for this episode. It's been a good ride. We love you. Good night.
This is a cool one. So we used to go after school to the mall in Ventura, and they had this little stand called Island Squeeze. And at Island Squeeze, it was like smoothies and boba and like that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so they had the really big straws for the boba, right? So we would all go and order like one drink so we could each get just like the big boba straw. Like one person, because we were poor. So one person would order a drink and like 8 of us would all get a straw. And then we would go up on the second floor in the mall and then shoot spitballs down to like the jewelry counters and shit like that with those big, huge straws. It was hilarious.
That's a perfect use of using an effective spitball. But like, when was this? Because I feel like if you were doing that, it would have been with me. But I never did that with you. Like, when was that?
This was high school.
Oh,
for
okay.
sure.
A little
Yeah,
bit
when you
older.
were gone. When
I
you
see.
were in the
In prison.
Carolinas.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the dirty South. But yeah, we would go there weekends or evenings. We got banned from the mall for like a year or something like that.
Yeah, I got kicked out of that mall too. They take your picture?
I don't remember that. They could have, but I don't remember that. So we still all went back anyways. Like,
So
all the time.
they had my picture up. They kicked me, Rory, and Justin out when we were in high school. Come in. And
What did you guys do?
we were just skating in the loading dock.
Oh.
And some security guard was all mad, and we were filming him be all mad, and that made him more mad. So we were skateboarding back there. What's up, dude? Welcome, Steve.
Is this after
This
high
is
school?
all going at the end of the episode, so if you have anything to add, feel free to say it in the mic.
I got kicked out of a park on my bike with some friends once by a security guard who way overreacted at a park that we'd never been kicked out of before. We'd all been. It's right next to the Sagebrush Cantina on Mulholland Highway in Calabasas, right at the bottom of the hill. Kids from that neighborhood had been riding their bikes in that park for longer than I'd been alive. All of a sudden, on this one day, there's like 4 of us in there. We're not bothering anything. We're not breaking anything. We're just riding around on this little trail that's built into the park. Guard starts flipping the fuck out, yelling at us, "What are you doing in here with your bikes?" You know, blah, 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 blah. I got really angry, but I kicked us out. We didn't have smartphones back then. Others probably would have filmed him, but one of my friends just started talking shit back to him, and we eventually just left because I didn't feel like having the cops called on me, but yeah.
What is with that? I could never imagine being that guy. Now I'm an adult, right?
Right.
But I could never imagine going up to some kids and be like, "Hey, you can't ride your bikes around here."
The guy could have just come up and we were a pretty reasonably well-behaved group of kids. The guy could have just come up and said, "Hey guys, we don't let people ride bikes in here anymore." We probably would have just left, but instead he chose to yell at everyone.
Right.
A security guard at the Northridge Mall once got apoplectic with me because I was taking pictures of the mall property. I couldn't believe it. I'd bought it was years ago already. I'd gotten a new digital camera. It was the first one like it I'd ever owned, and I was going out that night with friends. We were milling around the mall, and I decided to take the camera with me. I wasn't taking pictures of anything specific. I was just dicking around with it to teach myself how to use it. But I was taking pictures of anything I thought looked neat, like the underlighting on palm trees and stuff, just to see how the camera reacted to those pictures. And the guy came riding up on a bicycle and just, "You can't take pictures on the mall property. I have to watch while you delete those, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "What are you talking about, dude?" He's like, "It's private property. It's against the rules." I'm like, "The palm trees? The mall owners are concerned about images of the palm trees? That's what you're telling me?"
That's a power trip. There's no way that was a rule.
Yeah, I can't believe that's actually a rule. I mean, I remember being told when I got a retail job at 17 or 18 that they didn't let people take pictures in the store for some weird reason. But when I pressed the security people about why that was a rule, they didn't actually have an answer. So, yeah.
Do you think a fucking security guard knows why they do their job? What the fuck? Dude, they're just there for a paycheck, man. Like, seriously.
Yeah, probably.
If your life's aspirations are to be a fucking mall security guard,
Right.
like, I don't know, man.
Another guard did the same thing to my friend Josh and I once. We must have been 14 or 15. We were sitting on the patio at the Kookaroo that used to be in the Topanga Mall, waiting for my mother to come pick us up so that she'd know where to find us. And the security guard's like, "If you guys aren't eating here, you can't sit here." Like, what?
Good Lord.
Right. Well, I don't know.
I validly got chased out of Ventura College before. But that was a little different. College police are a little different than like mall cops.
Skating?
You know?
Yeah.
No, we were BMXing at the time, and so I was done skating, and I was into BMX for like quite a few years.
Yeah.
And so they have it's like a 25 stair rail, and there's no kinks on the rail. It's perfectly smooth, and it has such a great approach. And on both sides is just like 3 feet of ivy. So if you fall, like, it's not that bad, right? So we would just go and hit this rail all the time. And one day we got chased out. It was like Easter Sunday or something. So there was nobody on campus. There's nobody there. Nobody doing anything. We weren't bothering anybody. I mean, we were damaging school property, I guess. But like they legit chased us. But it was one of those cool like I don't know, like the first thing I think of is the scene in E.T. where all the bikes like split up, right? When they're chasing them and like everybody's going in a different direction. So the security guys can't figure out who to chase, but then they like catch up with other ones and we're like crossing paths and all this stuff with their stupid little golf carts.
The E.T. theme is playing while you're doing it?
Yeah, for sure.
I love it.
I found a basket on the ground, put it up on my handlebars. Like it was so cool.
Put a crackhead in there?
Yeah.
One of the security guards at Moorpark College told me once that something like 60% of his job was just chasing skaters off the campus.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was like the height of the Tony Hawk days, so like everybody wanted to go skate something public, you know? Like it was just public and street sports, I guess you would call it. We're just kind of like at such a peak at that time. It was so elevated.
Oh my God.
Good times though.
It is great. Yeah, I somebody I know at Amgen actually at one point years before getting a real job there had worked in their security department, and they've got the whole facility gated off now, but for a long while I guess they had problems with kids coming in at night with skateboards and stuff. And the kids were never trying to get into the buildings, but they wanted to skate on the property. And there was one night where they'd had to chase off 3 or 4 kids with skateboards. And the next morning when this acquaintance of mine went in for work, they had this group morning meeting, and his boss started the meeting literally by saying Amgen is under attack.
This guy should be a politician.
Right.
Amgen is under attack.
Amgen is under attack, and I think he got laughed at.
Meet Zachary. Bleached blonde hair. Cargo shorts.
Some 14 and 15-year-olds from Newbury Park High School have been coming in here and skating occasionally. Fucking A, dude.